Chapter 2561. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to kill Longao and Dragon Slayer. Ububi had never expected that this would be the outcome of the Dragon's Tomb. He was almost certain that Longao had come prepared when he stepped into the Dragon Tomb space this time. According to the situation, even if he could step into the Dragon Tomb space again, it would be of no use. Especially the battle with Longao. It completely shocked Ububi. Ububi was very afraid of Longao's talent and strength because he knew very well that Longao's current strength was enough to fight against him. If Longao continued to break through his current realm, wouldn't it be more troublesome? With Longao's talent, it was impossible for him to stop at this level. If Longao's cultivation broke through the limit of Starry Sky Immortal or even half-step Starry Sky Dominator, what should he do? He was very afraid. After thinking about it, the most important thing now was to get rid of Longao and Dragon Slayer as soon as possible. Longao, who had successfully obtained the Divine Dragon Chaos Tablet, returned to the Soaring Dragon Empire as soon as possible. He knew very well what the Divine Dragon Chaos Tablet meant. Soaring Dragon Empire. Master, how was it? Dragon Slayer was very anxious and asked impatiently. Ever since he'd obtained the Black Stone Tablet countless years ago, Dragon Slayer had been wondering if the Black Stone Tablet he'd obtained was a Chaos Stone Tablet. How could Longao not know what Dragon Slayer was thinking? He smiled. Dragon Slayer, just as you guessed, the Black Tablet in the Dragon Tomb space is a Chaos Tablet. Its attribute is Divine Dragon, which is the Divine Dragon Chaos Tablet. Hearing Longao's words, Dragon Slayer was instantly pleasantly surprised. He was so excited that his body trembled a little. However, Dragon Slayer was more helpless and regretful because he didn't devour the Chaos Tablet that he had found with great difficulty. He didn't blame anyone but himself, who asked him to be unable to devour the Chaos Tablet for so many years. Even if he knew that the Black Tablet was the so-called Chaos Tablet, he could only helplessly do so. Longao smiled again. Dragon Slayer, let me ask you something. Would you be willing to devour the Divine Dragon Primal Chaos Tablet? Of course he was willing. If he didn't want to, then he must be out of his mind. Long Tu merely smiled because he was very well aware that it was impossible for Longao to allow him to devour the tablet. Even if he'd chosen to submit to Longao, it was still impossible. If it were anything else, it would be fine. Only the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet was a bit too nonsensical. Not to mention Longao, even if it was him. Once he obtained the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet, he wouldn't give it to anyone. Devouring a Primal Chaos Tablet would allow one to become the ruler of the universe. Try asking. In the vast starry skies, who wouldn't be willing to devour a Primal Chaos Tablet and become the ruler of the starry skies? Seeing that Long Slayer did not agree, Longao already knew what Long Slayer was thinking. In the next second, a black light was released from the Primal Chaos Palace. Instantly, the Divine Dragon Primal Chaos Stone Tablet floated in front of Longao. A lifelike Divine Dragon was engraved on the Black Stone Tablet. Master, what is the meaning of this? Looking at the floating tablet in front of Longao, Long Tu seemed to have guessed something. Even so, he still didn't quite believe it. You still don't know? He fiercely swallowed his saliva. Kneeling on the ground, Long Tu respectfully said, Master's great kindness, I will never forget it. I will never forget it in this lifetime. Nodding, Long Tu was always on his side. No matter who betrayed him, Long Tu wouldn't betray him. This was without a doubt. Long Tu, although you've devoured the tablet, you still have to keep the Empire. You can't let anything happen to the Empire. Of course, Long Tu knew the seriousness of the matter. The Empire was his master's bottom line. Even if something happened to his master, he couldn't let anything happen to the Empire. He was very worried. Long Tu's expression was very serious as he said, Master, no matter who comes under the Starry Skies ruler, as long as there aren't more than 3 half-step Starry Skies rulers, I can completely ignore them. Longao didn't speak. He just listened quietly. If the Starry Skies ruler comes, I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand it. How could Longao not know what Long Tu meant? If the Starry Skies ruler came, not to mention Long Tu, even he wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, He was very confident that the Starry Skies ruler and the oracle wouldn't come looking for trouble in a short time. Long 2. Leave the Starry Skies ruler to me. As for the others, I'll leave them to you. Remember, if anyone dares to come looking for trouble, no matter who it is, kill without mercy. Yes. Without any hesitation, Long 2 immediately devoured the tablet. He wasn't going to go into seclusion to cultivate. Instead, he was going to guard the Empire at all times. He couldn't let anything happen to the Empire. As for whether Ububi was alive or dead, Long 2 didn't ask. Longao didn't say either because they both knew that if nothing unexpected happened, the trap in the Dragon Tomb space wouldn't be able to kill Ububi. No matter what, their most important task was to lock onto the black tablet. As for killing Ububi, now wasn't the time. Whether they could succeed or not depended on their luck. In the courtyard, Longao lay quietly with Yun in his arms. Brother Long, is there something bothering you? Shaking his head, Longao replied with a smile, no. No matter what happened, Longao wouldn't tell his family because he didn't want them to worry about him. As for Yun, in all these years, Longao had always felt very guilty. That was because back then, he was looked down upon by everyone. Only Yun had always stayed by his side. She never left his side, and they were together in life and death. Brother Long, Yun has left the Empire for so many years. Sister Aoshue and Mother have always been worried. If you have time, why don't you go out and look for Yun? What if something happened to Yun? Before Yun could finish her sentence, Longao waved his hand and said, I know what I'm doing. Yun still needs training. If I hadn't experienced life and death back then, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now. Even so, Yun is still young. If we don't do anything and something happens to Yun, what are we going to do? How could Longao not know about Yun's worries? He believed that Aoshue and Mother would be even more worried about Yun's safety. However, Longao wasn't prepared to interfere because he firmly believed that only through experience could one grow. Otherwise, Yun would never be able to grow. Seeing that Longao wasn't speaking, Yun instantly understood what Longao meant. She sighed deeply in her heart. Now that things had come to this, she didn't know what else to say. Chapter 2562. In the vast starry sky. With a boom, the entire vast starry sky shook. Just what had happened? The starry sky was boundless. No one knew just how big it was. Even so, some people had still heard the explosion. No one knew what had happened, but for it to cause such a huge commotion, it wasn't a simple matter. Longao, who was in the soaring dragon plane, had also heard the explosion. He was shocked. Other than Xiling, the others were still in seclusion. No one had come out. Longao, do you know what's going on? He nodded. Longao looked at the distant starry sky. He couldn't quite believe it. Xiling, you should remember that the God Diviner sealed a primal chaos rock. Could it be the primal chaos rock? Xiling seemed to have guessed something. He was shocked. Whether it was Longao or Xiling, they both knew what the primal chaos rock meant. It was different from the other rulers of the starry sky. It had already grasped primal chaos energy. Its strength was even greater than the God Diviners. As for whether or not the primal chaos rock had devoured the primal chaos tablet, that was still unknown. It was just as Longao had guessed. The God Diviner had sealed the primal chaos rock for countless years, but its injuries hadn't healed in the slightest. In fact, it had been sealed this entire time. This time, the primal chaos rock had been able to break out of the seal thanks to Longao. Had Longao done it on purpose? Or was it unintentional? Perhaps only the primal chaos rock and Longao knew this. However, although the primal chaos rock had broken out of the seal, its injuries were still very heavy. Let alone the God Diviner, even the others could easily deal with it. The Martial Heaven Continent. The current Martial Heaven Continent was in a sorry state. There were countless casualties. Although the primal chaos rock was still heavily injured, its strength was still there. When it had broken out of the seal, it had almost destroyed the entire continent. In the end, the God Diviner had managed to protect the Martial Heaven Continent. In the outer starry sky, within the Crystal Palace, the God Diviner's expression was gloomy and ugly. He had never imagined that the primal chaos rock would be able to break out of the seal. After all, he had been completely confident in his seal. Yigudu was also furious. Of course, he knew what it meant for the primordial rock to break out of the seal. All these years, his father had always hoped to borrow the power of the primal chaos rock to control the primal chaos stone tablet. But what was the result? As the primordial rock broke out of the seal, everything became nonsense. Father, I've already ordered everyone to help us lock onto the primordial rock's position. It was already too late. In fact, Yigudu knew very well that it was too late to lock onto it now. If nothing unexpected happened, the primordial rock would definitely find a place to recover from its injuries after breaking out of the seal. If the chaotic giant rock refused to appear, it would be impossible for them to lock onto its position. Even his father was unable to deduce the location of the primordial rock. Master God Diviner's face grew darker and darker. The primal chaos rock must have gone into hiding. I believe that it won't be long before this matter spreads throughout the vast starry sky. Dugu, come with me. Yigudu was very curious to see his father leave, but he didn't dare to ask. He knew that his father was definitely furious right now. It was best not to throw himself at the muzzle of a spear. That would be courting death. Yigudu didn't dare to ask. Just like that, he followed Master God Diviner out of the Crystal Palace in the Martial Heaven continent. The two of them were extremely fast. In just a few minutes, they crossed the starry sky and arrived at the number 1 cosmic empire. Bai Jing, Bai Hua, and the 3 eagles were shocked to see the 2 rulers of the starry sky suddenly descend. They didn't know why the 2 rulers of the starry sky had suddenly descended. Bai Jing, immediately notify the half-step rulers of the other 8 cosmic empires. Tell them to come here as soon as possible. If they don't come in a day, kill them without mercy. Bai Jing and the others seemed to have guessed something. It seemed that the shaking of the starry sky was related to Master God Diviner and Master God Diviner. However, they didn't dare to ask.
Yes.
Although a ruler of the starry sky couldn't completely destroy a half-step ruler, suppressing one was as easy as flipping a hand. It would be a lie to say that they weren't afraid. Not daring to hesitate, Bai Jing and the others immediately spread out to the other 8 half-step rulers, as well as various peak Starry Sky Immortals and Starry Sky Immortals. With their speed, it wouldn't even take a day for them to arrive. If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have dared to summon all the experts of the 9 cosmic empires. Only Master God Diviner and Yigudu dared not to come. One by one, they rushed to the number 1 cosmic empire. No one knew what had happened. They didn't know why Master God Diviner and Master God Diviner had summoned them. It seemed that it had something to do with the shaking of the starry sky. A few short hours later, all the half-step rulers, peak Starry Sky Immortals, peak Starry Sky Legends, and Starry Sky Almighties of the Dragon Race's 9 cosmic empires were gathered in the Grand Hall of the number 1 cosmic empire. This was the peak of the human race's power. Not only that, but all the experts of the peak dragon race, the peak mouse race, the peak underworld race, and even the peak massacre race were also gathered in the hall. Among the 6 peak races, only the peak mysterious race was absent. Even Master God Diviner couldn't do anything to the peak mysterious race, because he couldn't calculate the location of the peak mysterious race. Let's cut to the chase. I have gathered all of you here mainly because the chaotic giant rock that I sealed back then has broken out of the seal. This chaotic giant rock is severely injured. Hence, all of you only have one task now. No matter what, you have to find this chaotic giant rock for me. As for the matters in your hands, put them all down. As the starry sky ruler, Master God Diviner's strength and deterrence were there. No one dared to disobey him. After all, if Master God Diviner wanted to, he could destroy them at any time. Even the 9 half-step rulers didn't dare to disobey him. No one even dared to ask what had happened. However, looking at the expression on Master God Diviner's face, they already knew that this matter was not simple. Otherwise, Master God Diviner wouldn't be so anxious. What was the origin of the primordial rock? Since it could make Master God Diviner so anxious and sealed for so many years, everyone seemed to have guessed something. Chapter 2563. For the Master God Diviner to be so anxious and angry, It seemed that the primal chaos rock was not simple. Could it be that the primal chaos rock could threaten the Master God Diviner? Unbelievable. It was simply inconceivable. After receiving the mission, everyone left the first plane and began a thorough search of the vast starry sky. The Master God Diviner and Yidugu naturally did not remain in the first plane. They returned to the Martial Heaven continent. The Master God Diviner was confident that unless someone could become a ruler of the starry sky, no one would dare to go against his orders unless they were courting death. The Master God Diviner's summons had attracted almost 80% of the starry sky's experts. What kind of concept was that? This was a gathering of rulers of the starry sky. If it had been anyone else, no matter who it was, they would not have been able to do this. Even the 9 half-step rulers of the starry sky would not have been able to gather them. This was the power and deterrence of a ruler of the starry sky. It was terrifying. As everyone searched for the primal chaos rock's location, the entire starry sky knew about it. Everyone turned pale with fright. This had never happened in so many years. It shocked the starry sky. Soon, Longao and Xiling, who were in the Soaring Dragon Empire, also learned of this matter. They were not the least bit surprised, because they had already guessed this before. Longao, tell me the truth. Does the primal chaos rock breaking out of the seal have anything to do with you? Longao smiled. It seems my guess was right. It does have something to do with you. Xiling knew Longao's character too well. If it hadn't been for Longao's previous incident, how could the primal chaos rock have broken out of the seal for no reason? After all, the Master God Diviner had sealed it for so many years. It had been fine all along, but something had happened to Longao when he had entered the sealed land. Longao did not hide much from Xiling. He roughly told him what had happened. So it turned out, when Longao had entered the sealed land, he had talked a lot with the primal chaos rock. In the end, Longao and the primal chaos rock had chosen to form an alliance. However, Longao knew that this matter had to be done in secret. Otherwise, if the Master God Diviner found out, he would definitely be in trouble. After thinking about it, Longao and the primal chaos rock had put on such a show. The two of them seemed to be at odds with each other, but they chose to form an alliance in secret. Longao secretly helped the primal chaos rock break out of the seal. After waiting for so long, the primal chaos rock could not wait any longer. In the end, it chose to break the seal. I see. Xiling also sighed endlessly because in the entire vast starry sky, the only person who dared to play tricks under the eyes of the divine mathematician was probably Longao alone. If Master God Diviner found out about this, he wondered what Master God Diviner would do. Most likely, Master God Diviner would be infuriated. Xiling, the clairvoyant, is too strong. We can't deal with him on our own. You want to deal with the Oracle? He nodded. I don't know whether he's a friend or a foe, but I have a hunch that he's up to no good. We'd better prepare as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something happens in the future, we won't even have a chance to fight back. Dragon Ao was very afraid of Master God Diviner because he was too strong. He had single-handedly directed the reincarnation war, and if it weren't for the fact that Master God Diviner wanted primal chaos power, the other 11 rulers of the starry sky, including Violet Spirit, would probably still be sealed or reincarnated. They could not be careless with such a strong opponent. Regarding Longao's meaning, how could Purple Spirit not know? As the saying goes, caution is the parent of safety. Back then, they had been fooled by the Oracle because they had not been careful. They had almost been doomed eternally. Fortunately, Longao's appearance made things take a turn for the better. Longao, you should know the location of the primal chaos rock, right? He nodded. I made an agreement with the primal chaos rock. When he broke out of the seal, he would enter the plane we had designated. But for the time being, the primal chaos rock should not appear. After all, he was seriously injured. If he appeared at this time, not to mention the Oracle, even an ordinary starry sky cultivator could easily destroy the primal chaos rock. I see. What are you going to do next? Violet Spirit was well aware of the current situation. She was certain that Master God Diviner was enraged by the fact that the primal chaos rock had broken out of the sealing mark. If Master God Diviner found out about this, he would definitely go on a killing spree. This matter had to be dealt with properly. They could not afford to make a single mistake. Longao also knew the seriousness of the matter, so he could not let the oracle know about it. One mistake would lead to many mistakes. They could not afford to make the slightest mistake. After thinking for a while, Longao said, "I will go to the plane later and see what's going on with the primal chaos rock. No matter what happens, nothing can happen to the primal chaos rock. Otherwise, no one can control the oracle." The reason why he had chosen to ally with the primal chaos rock was to let the primal chaos rock control the oracle. If the primal chaos rock was sealed by the oracle again, then everything he had done would be in vain. Since things had come to this, Xiling did not say anything more. After all, if the primal chaos rock could control the oracle, then it might not be a bad thing. Longao did not immediately go to find the primal chaos rock. After all, in the vast starry sky, everyone was looking for the primal chaos rock. If he was unlucky and was discovered, then he would be in big trouble. The vast starry sky was changing. Everyone was searching inch by inch. Everyone was curious about the primal chaos rock. They did not know the origin of the primal chaos rock. How could it make the oracle so anxious? It was easy to guess what was going on. Now, 5 of the 6 major races had all intervened in this matter, except for the peak mysterious race. That level of power was enough to wipe out any person or group in the starry sky. Every realm, every plane, every sect, and every empire was in danger. After all, no one could be sure that Master God Diviner wouldn't go on a killing spree, and no one wanted to be caught in the crossfire. In the blink of an eye. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Until now, no one had been able to locate the primal chaos rock. After all, it was too difficult. The vast starry sky was boundless, and no one knew how big it was. Even the starry sky ruler could not locate the primal chaos rock, let alone the starry sky ruler, who was known to be able to calculate everything. As time went by, many people chose to give up. As long as the primal chaos rock did not take the initiative to appear, it was impossible to locate it. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chapter 2564. Some people chose to give up, while others chose to continue. There were still countless people searching for the primal chaos rock. Finding the primal chaos rock in the vast starry sky was easier said than done. Time slowly passed. The God Diviner grew more and more anxious. The longer this matter was delayed, the worse it would be for him. No one knew when the primal chaos rock would recover. At that time, even he wouldn't be able to suppress it. He had to find the primal chaos rock as quickly as possible. Other than having others search for the primal chaos rock, the God Diviner was also constantly calculating its location. The Martial Heaven continent. In the outer sea, within the Crystal Palace, Master God Diviner cursed angrily, his anger reaching its peak.
"Father, don't be anxious."
How can I not be anxious? Yidugu was a bit helpless. He had never seen his father like this in countless years. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. As for the God Diviner, he was extremely anxious. If he could grasp the primal chaos energy within the primal chaos steel, then he would definitely be able to lock onto the primal chaos rock's location. But now, the situation was special. Before he could grasp the primal chaos energy within the primal chaos steel, there were many things that many people couldn't calculate. That was the key. It seems our guess was correct. After the primal chaos rock broke out of the seal, it chose to hide. This is troublesome. Yidugu shrugged helplessly. At this point, he was also a bit helpless. He didn't know what to say. It seems I'll have to find the other rulers of the starry sky. What? Yidugu was shocked. He had never imagined that his father would think of such a method. Yidugu naturally knew what it meant for his father to go find the other rulers of the starry sky. After all, countless years ago, it was because of his father that the other rulers of the starry sky had almost died. If his father hadn't wanted primal chaos energy, the other rulers of the starry sky would probably have been sealed or reincarnated. Father, the other rulers of the starry sky probably won't agree to this. How could the God Diviner not know what his son was thinking? He chuckled. If they refine the primal chaos steel again, perhaps I won't be able to do anything. But now, it was just as the god diviner had said. The other rulers of the starry sky wouldn't dare to go against his will. After all, with his current strength, if he truly wanted to deal with someone, he could suppress and seal that person. A year passed by quietly. After waiting for more than a year, Longao finally left the soaring dragon empire. Back then, the chaotic giant rock and Longao had an agreement. When the chaotic giant rock broke out of the seal, it would immediately find the agreed-upon plane and settle down temporarily. The plane that the chaotic Doping and Longao had agreed on was only a low-level plane. Moreover, it was a low-level plane where people came and went. It was a very secluded plane. Low-level planes. Xiling had already told Longao that the chaos giant rock had broken out of the seal and might not enter the plane as promised. But what was the result? Longao still firmly believed that the primordial rock was not that kind of person. After entering the low-level plane, Longao began to lock onto the chaos rock's position. Although the space in a low-level plane was limited, as long as the chaos great rock deliberately hid its aura, even the starry sky ruler would not be able to locate it, let alone himself. Longao. Just as Longao continued to lock onto the chaos great rock's position, the chaos great rock's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. He was immediately overjoyed. It seemed that he had not misjudged the chaos great rock chose to believe in him. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. In any case, the chaos great rock could break out of the seal because of him. If he had not secretly intervened, who knew when it would be able to break out of the seal? In a huge cave. As soon as Longao stepped into the cave, the chaos great rock said in surprise, "Longao, it's so good to see you. If it weren't for you this time, I wouldn't have been able to break out of the seal." "Thank you." He shrugged indifferently. Longao said with a smile, "It's just a small matter. But Chaos Great Rock, I won't hide it from you. The reason why I helped you this time is that I want to rely on your strength to restrain the marvelous mathematician, because the marvelous mathematician will definitely deal with me in the future." Hearing Long Ao's words, the Chaos Great Rock was not angry at all. Instead, he smiled. If Long Ao had not told the truth, the Chaos Great Rock might have been on guard. However, the Chaos Great Rock was relieved when Long Ao told the truth. Everyone had their own selfish motives. Long Ao was also a human. Of course, he was selfish. It was because of this that the Chaos Great Rock dared to make an agreement with Long Ao. "Long Ao, this is not difficult for me. If I can recover from my injuries, I will definitely help you suppress the marvelous mathematician. If possible, I can even help you kill him." "With your strength, you can't kill the marvelous mathematician?" Long Ao was very curious. The marvelous mathematician had said that even with his strength, he was not a match for the Chaos Great Rock. According to this situation, the Chaos Great Rock should be able to kill the marvelous mathematician. But what was the result? The Chaos Great Rock smiled helplessly and said, "Long Ao, to be honest, although I have mastered the power of primal chaos, I cannot kill the marvelous mathematician. If the marvelous mathematician did not have a primal chaos tablet, I could easily kill him." It was a bit ridiculous. If the marvelous mathematician did not have a primal chaos tablet, he would not be the ruler of the stars. Long Ao did not continue to dwell on this issue. He knew very well that if the Chaos Great Rock was confident in killing the marvelous mathematician, it would not refuse. After all, even if he was not present, the Chaos Great Rock would not hesitate to kill the marvelous mathematician if the opportunity arose. The enmity between the Chaos Great Rock and the marvelous mathematician had reached a point where they would not rest until one of them was dead. Both the marvelous mathematician and the Chaos Great Rock could not wait to kill each other. "How are your injuries, Chaos Great Rock?" The Chaos Great Rock's injuries were the key. Long Ao knew that even if the Chaos Great Rock could not kill the marvelous mathematician, it could still pin him down. This was a very good thing for him. How could the Chaos Great Rock not understand Long Ao's intentions? The primal Chaos Great Rock sighed and said, "Long Ao, my injuries can't be healed. Back then, I injured my foundation. Otherwise, Master God Diviner wouldn't have sealed me for so many years." Could not be healed? What did that mean? Chapter 2565. Longao certainly knew what it meant if he couldn't recover. Chaos Dapeng couldn't kill the clairvoyant at his peak, let alone in a state where he couldn't recover. Chaos Dapeng, I can help you. Thank you. Chaos Dapeng didn't say much. Since things had already come to this, he didn't have any hope. He just hoped that his injuries could be healed. The primal chaos rock was well aware of its injuries. Not to mention Longao, even the starry sky dominator who had mastered the power of chaos might not be able to help him recover. He was helpless. Longao, I can't help you contain the clairvoyant for the time being. You should know about my injuries. I understand. According to my current situation, I can probably recover about 60 to 70%. So, at this point, the primal chaos rock did not continue speaking, but the meaning of its words was very clear. Longao was not a fool. Of course, he could understand the meaning of Chaos Dapeng's words. He smiled. Chaos Dapeng, since you and I have formed an alliance, we will live and die together. Our common enemy is the clairvoyant. Before Chaos Dapeng could speak, Longao continued, Chaos Dapeng, you are not safe here. If you are found by others, or the clairvoyant, you will be in danger. How could the primordial rock not know about this? However, the vast starry sky was full of the clairvoyant's people. No matter where he went, there was a possibility of being found. After thinking about it, I decided to let you enter my empire to cultivate and recover. In this way, even if you are found, my empire and I will stand in front of you. He was very touched. Chaos Dapeng could clearly feel that Longao was sincere. Chaos Dapeng didn't refuse. He immediately followed Longao and quietly left the low-level plane, heading for the soaring dragon empire. But the result? If one's luck was still bad, he would be stuck in cold water. When Longao and Chaos Dapeng rushed to the soaring dragon empire, they were discovered by Lin Han and Wang Tao, and the two sides fought. Lin Han and Wang Tao were the peak Starry Sky immortals of the Second Starry Sky Empire. If Chaos Dapeng was at his peak, he would definitely ignore them. However, the current situation was very special. Longao had to fight the two of them while protecting the chaotic giant rock at the same time. He was a little powerless. No matter what, the chaotic giant rock was severely injured. It was no match for the two of them. However, Longao was no longer the same as before. Spatial teleportation had long transformed into temporal teleportation, and his speed had taken a qualitative leap. Longao left with the chaotic giant rock without a hitch. Lin Han and Wang Tao didn't hesitate at all. Of course, they knew what the chaotic giant rock meant. It was the space mythological beast that the marvelous mathematician was looking for. Who would dare to be careless? However, the two of them were unable to find the oracle, so they could only report this matter to Zhuge Ming. Zhuge Ming was overjoyed. Following Zhuge Ming's announcement, Master God Diviner and everyone else knew about it. Longao locked onto the primal chaos rock and protected it. What did this mean? Many people chose not to believe it. Even Master God Diviner was skeptical because he couldn't figure out whether this was true or not. Master God Diviner certainly knew that Longao didn't know about his relationship with the chaotic giant rock. If Longao did so, wouldn't it mean that he was provoking him? With Longao's current strength, how could he walk into the tiger's mouth and court his own death? The main reason why Master God Diviner was skeptical was that Zhuge Ming, Lin Han, and Wang Tao had reported it. Everyone knew that the Second Starry Sky Empire and Longao had a grudge against each other. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they would fight to the death. It wasn't impossible for the Second Starry Sky Empire to kill someone with a borrowed knife. Master God Diviner didn't rashly choose to believe it, but he also didn't decisively choose not to believe it. He still wanted to see for himself what was going on. If it were anyone else, he would have killed them regardless of whether they were provoking him or not. Longao was the only one the divine mathematician couldn't make a move on. He had always thought that Longao was a variable. Whether he was good or bad was still unknown. It was because of this unknown that the divine mathematician had been reluctant to make a move. Master God Diviner looked at the vast starry sky and found that not only could he not lock onto Longao's position, but he couldn't even lock onto the soaring dragon empire's position. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have let the soaring dragon empire go. But it was too late to regret now. Master God Diviner had been too confident in himself. He thought that with his divination ability, he could calculate the location of the Soaring Dragon Empire. But he didn't expect that Longao would be a variable and the Soaring Dragon Empire would also be a variable. He regretted it very much. Without being able to lock onto Longao, Master God Diviner couldn't be sure whether this was true or not. Could it be that he had to use the power of the entire starry sky to find Longao's position? If that was the case, Longao would definitely complain. When that time came, there would only be two possibilities. The first was that he would personally destroy the Longao and eliminate the root of the problem. The second was that he would lower himself, but that was a little unlikely. In this case, it was really a little difficult to deal with. The biggest reason why Master God Diviner didn't inform the entire starry sky was because he didn't want to fall out with Longao at this time. He always felt that Longao was a variable, and this variable was beneficial to him. Otherwise, with his identity, how could he endure it again and again? Longao ignored the two's discovery and directly returned to the Soaring Dragon Empire with the Primal Chaos Rock. He had already thought about this matter. Even if the matter between him and the Primal Chaos Rock was known by Master God Diviner, he would fall out with him. Some things could be compromised, but some things couldn't be compromised. Soaring Dragon Empire. After settling the Primal Chaos Rock, Longao immediately found Xiling and told her about the matter. Xiling's face was very serious. Of course, she knew what this meant. If Master God Diviner really chose to believe it, then things would be very troublesome. At that time, Master God Diviner would definitely think that Longao had premeditated this. With Master God Diviner's strength, dealing with Longao and the Soaring Dragon Empire was more than enough. Even if Longao had the Primal Chaos Palace and could ignore Master God Diviner, what about the Soaring Dragon Empire? Longao's biggest worry was still Master God Diviner. After all, everything had a chance. If Master God Diviner locked onto the Soaring Dragon Empire, then no one could stop him. At this moment, in the entire Soaring Dragon Empire, no one could refine the Primal Chaos Tablet and become the ruler of the starry sky. Chapter 2566. Longao, what do you plan to do next? Longao certainly knew what Xiling meant. The situation was very serious. It was better to be safe than sorry. If the Clairvoyant Master really believed this, then even with the Chaos Palace, he could only protect himself and not the Empire. Especially with the Clairvoyant Master's strength, no one could contend against him in a direct confrontation, let alone a sneak attack. How could Longao not be annoyed in such a situation? I'll take it one step at a time. That was all he could do now. Xiling shrugged helplessly because she had no good way to deal with the current situation. According to the two of them, if the Clairvoyant Master really believed Lin Han and Wang Tao, he would definitely announce it to the vast starry sky and locate them. But what was the result? 10 days passed and the vast starry sky was still silent. Could it be that the Clairvoyant Master didn't believe it? Or maybe Lin Han and Wang Tao didn't tell the Clairvoyant Master at all. In other words, the Clairvoyant Master didn't know about it. Even so, Longao didn't relax in the slightest. He knew very well that he couldn't be careless about this matter. Otherwise, he and his family would be doomed eternally. The situation was critical. He could only wait. 9 great starry sky empires, 9 half-step starry sky rulers. The 9 of them gathered in the grand hall of the first plane. Everyone's expression was very solemn. It was impossible for the 9 of them to gather together unless there was something particularly important. Bai Jing, half-step starry sky ruler of the first starry sky empire, Zhuge Ming, half-step starry sky ruler of the second starry sky empire, Gong Sun He, half-step starry sky ruler of the third starry sky empire, Lu Feng, half-step starry sky ruler of the fourth starry sky empire, Zhou Bolai, half-step starry sky ruler of the fifth starry sky empire, Lu Mu, half-step starry sky ruler of the sixth starry sky empire, Kong Xiao, half-step starry sky ruler of the seventh starry sky empire, Fang Buping, half-step starry sky ruler of the 8th starry sky empire, and Wei Bujing, half-step starry sky ruler of the 9th starry sky empire. Bai Jing looked at Zhuge Ming and said, "Brother Zhuge, is what Lin Han and Wang Tao said true?" Until now, the clairvoyant master still hadn't made the slightest move. The 9 of them were completely confused and didn't know what was going on. Zhuge Ming nodded and said, I believe they won't lie. As for why the clairvoyant master still hasn't made a move, I don't know. Not to mention Zhuge Ming and Bai Jing, the others were also puzzled. Judging from what had happened before, Master God Diviner clearly valued the primordial rock. But what was the result? Although he had already found the primordial rock, the God Diviner still didn't move. What was the meaning of this? He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. At this moment, Gong's son, he said coldly, I heard that Longao came from the martial heaven continent. If it hadn't been for Master God Diviner's protection, he would have been killed by the other rulers of the universe. Hearing this, the other 8 people were extremely shocked. For so many years, Longao's identity had always been a mystery. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find anything. So Longao came from the martial heaven continent. If that was the case, then things had become a bit complicated. Gongsun He, do you know the relationship between Longao and the clairvoyant? It's hard to say. Of course, Gongsun He didn't know. It was just a wild guess. However, Gongsun He knew that the enmity between him and Longao had reached a point where one of them had to die. Among the 9 people, he wanted Longao dead the most. Thinking about it, Gongsun He continued, according to my guess, Longao is just a chess piece of Master God Diviner. Chess piece? That was very reasonable. Brother Gongsun, in your opinion, why isn't Master God Diviner willing to make a move? Even Gongsun He didn't know the reason. Under normal circumstances, since Master God Diviner knew that the primordial rock had been taken away by Longao, he would definitely make a move. But in the end, Master God Diviner was still unwilling to make a move. The reason was very suspicious. Since things had already come to this, Gongsun He naturally wouldn't choose to give up. He made up a story. I think that the biggest reason Master God Diviner is still unwilling to make a move is that he doesn't believe Lin Han and Wang Tao. The 8 people thought about it and nodded in agreement. After thinking about it, there seemed to be only one possibility. We have to think of a way to make Master God Diviner believe that the primordial rock was taken away by Longao. If this matter spread out, the 9 people would probably become a joke. As dignified half-step Starry Sky rulers, 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers were actually discussing how to get rid of Longao. It was a complete joke. If Longao was a half-step Starry Sky ruler, it would be fine. However, it turned out that Longao was only a Starry Sky immortal. He hadn't even reached the peak Starry Sky immortal realm, let alone a half-step Starry Sky ruler. 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers joining forces couldn't deal with a Starry Sky immortal realm cultivator. It was really a joke. However, they were helpless to the extreme. Over the years, they had tried countless times. If it was a head-on confrontation, none of them would be afraid of Longao. They believed that any one of them could easily destroy Longao. However, the problem now was that although Longao's strength wasn't very good, he had a heaven-defying Starry Sky Divine tool. Even they couldn't lock the location of this heaven-defying Starry Sky Divine tool. Anyway, they would lose face. If they could smoothly kill Longao, they might be able to save some face. However, the 9 people weren't fools. They knew very well that they couldn't deal with Longao alone. If that was the case, they might as well take advantage of this opportunity to kill Longao with a borrowed knife. They could then use Master God Diviner's strength to eliminate Longao. Tell me, what should we do to make Master God Diviner believe this? Everyone shrugged helplessly. The situation was very troublesome because Lin Han and Wang Tao's words weren't enough to make Master God Diviner believe them. Master God Diviner might not believe them either. While the 9 people were discussing how to deal with Longao, suddenly, in the vast starry sky, there was a rumor that someone had seen the legendary chaotic giant rock. The 9 people who received the news were all shocked because they knew that Longao would slowly leave with the chaotic giant rock. If nothing unexpected happened, the 2 of them would definitely choose to hide. However, with the appearance of the chaotic giant rock, they didn't know what was going on. Was Longao provoking Master God Diviner? This was complete nonsense. Even if Longao was given 10,000 guts, They believed that Longao wouldn't dare to provoke Master God Diviner. After all, in the vast starry sky, the starry sky ruler was an invincible existence. Unless Longao was courting death, he would never dare to provoke Master God Diviner casually. Chapter 2567. The image of the primal chaos rock continued to appear in the starry sky. The 9 of them began to wonder if Lin Han and Wang Tao's words were true. In the end, in order to ensure that the news was reliable, they could only find Lin Han and Wang Tao and ask them for a clear explanation. Lin Han and Wang Tao didn't hesitate. They immediately swore blood oaths. Blood oaths had restrictions on everyone. If they still didn't believe it, then there was nothing they could do. Just like that, the 9 of them were almost certain that the primal chaos rock had been taken away by Longao. As for why there was news about the primal chaos rock in other places, they guessed that Longao had done it on purpose. The more Longao acted like this, the more the 9 of them believed it was true. What they believed was useless. The most important thing was that the God Diviner believed it. There was nothing they could do. The 9 of them hurried to the martial heaven continent. In the outer sea, within the Crystal Palace, the 9 of them immediately told the God Diviner what they were thinking. From beginning to end, the God Diviner didn't say a word. Even now, he still didn't know whether this was true or not. After that, the 9 of them didn't say anything else. They were waiting to see what the God Diviner would do. They had no idea what the relationship between the Longao and the God Diviner was. If the Longao was just a chess piece, then the God Diviner would definitely kill the Longao for the sake of the primal chaos rock. What if the Longao wasn't a chess piece? If the Longao wasn't a chess piece, then things would be troublesome. After an unknown amount of time, the God Diviner suddenly looked at the 9 of them and asked, "Are you sure this is true?" Yes. The 9 of them answered in unison. The 9 people weren't fools. They looked at the expression on the divine mathematician's face. They knew that Gong's son he was right. Longao was indeed a pawn of the divine mathematician. If that was the case, then things would be very good. Borrowing a knife to kill someone. The 9 of them were well aware of Master God Diviner's strength. If Master God Diviner really made a move, then even if Longao had 3 heads and 6 arms, and even if he had a heaven-defying starry sky divine weapon, Longao would still be doomed. Of course, the 9 of them had no idea how heaven-defying Longao's heaven-defying starry sky god item was. Not even Master God Diviner would necessarily be able to lock onto that item in Longao's possession. If this is false, I will forcibly suppress you all. When they heard Master God Diviner's words, the 9 of them were completely shocked. Never in their wildest dreams could they have imagined that Master God Diviner would say something like that. If it were anyone else, the 9 of them would have chosen to ignore them. In the vast starry sky, they only feared the starry sky ruler. As for others, they weren't even ants in their eyes. Only the ruler of the starry sky and Master Clairvoyant did. The 9 of them were very afraid of Master God Diviner, and were well aware that, although he couldn't kill them, he could easily crush them. There was little difference between being suppressed and dying. The 9 of them, who had been full of confidence, instantly fell silent. It wasn't that they didn't believe Lin Han and Wang Tao. No matter what, the 2 of them had already sworn a blood oath. However, there was always a possibility. If the 2 of them were wrong, or if they made a mistake in the process, then things would really get troublesome. Master God Diviner snorted coldly and said in a seemingly displeased tone, "You don't even dare to believe yourselves, yet you're shamelessly boasting that it was Longao who did it. Look behind you." Right at this moment, with a burst of laughter, Longao walked in from outside. The figure who walked in was none other than Longao. The 9 of them were a little dumbfounded. According to their speculation, if this was true, then Longao would never come to them even if he was beaten to death. He should have hidden away with the primordial rock. Could it be that Lin Han and Wang Tao were really lying? What was going on? The 9 of them were indeed confused. However, after thinking about it, the 9 of them still chose to believe Lin Han and Wang Tao. Because in their opinion, the reason why Longao was like this might be because he was playing the game of, how can one obtain a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? Longao, They said that you teamed up with the primordial rock. Let me ask you, is this true? No. Longao was worried about this, so he risked his life to come here. If Master God Diviner didn't believe him, then this matter would be over. If Master God Diviner believed him, then he would have to completely fall out with him. The biggest reason why Longao dared to come here was because he had the primordial Chaos Palace. Otherwise, even if Longao was given 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to come here so rashly. Longao was ready to see what Master God Diviner would do. However, Gong's son he snorted coldly and said with a cold smile, Longao, you, Lin Han, and Wang Tao have already fought. The two of them discovered the blood oath and saw you leave with the primordial rock. Are you still going to deny it? Kill with a borrowed knife. For simple words. Longao didn't say anything else because he was very clear about the current situation. The more he spoke, the more unfavorable it would be for him. The 9 of them were very angry. How could they not know what Longao was thinking? Gong's son he couldn't wait and said, Lin Han and Wang Tao have already made a blood oath. Longao, if you want to prove your innocence, why don't you also make a blood oath? As long as you are willing to make a blood oath, we will choose to believe you. Under normal circumstances, Master God Diviner would definitely stop Gong's son he as long as he said this. After all, a blood oath couldn't be made casually. It was extremely distrustful of a person. However, Master God Diviner didn't stop him from beginning to end. Longao was very clear about what that meant. If he really did make a blood oath, it would be very disadvantageous for him. If he didn't make a blood oath, Master God Diviner would definitely suspect him. He had no choice but to admit that this move was very ruthless. Looking at Longao, the 9 people sneered in their hearts. They wanted to see what Longao would do. They hoped that Longao wouldn't make a blood oath. That way, everyone would know that Longao was hiding the truth. In that case, there was no need to wait. They believed that Master God Diviner would make a move. How could Longao resist Master God Diviner with his strength alone? What would Longao choose? Would he choose to make a blood oath, or would he refuse? Master God Diviner was also staring at Longao. Whether or not this was true would be revealed soon. Could it be that Longao hadn't thought of this? That was impossible. Longao wasn't an idiot. If he had come here, then he must have thought of this result. Sneering in his heart, Longao's expression was indifferent. He nodded and made the blood oath. Seeing this, the 9 people were completely dumbfounded. If Longao hadn't made a blood oath, then they definitely wouldn't have believed him. But now? Chapter 2568. Even Master God Diviner was a bit surprised. If Longao had really sworn a blood oath, then this matter really had nothing to do with Longao. In truth, Master God Diviner was very willing to see the 9 of them have enmity with Longao. That way, both sides could restrain each other, which was very beneficial to him. Just like that, Longao had sworn a blood oath in front of everyone's eyes. The truth was right in front of them. Even if the 9 of them didn't believe it, the truth was the truth. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. At this moment, Master God Diviner laughed. Longao, you don't need to swear a blood oath. I believe you. He sneered inside. Master God Diviner really was shameless. Before he had sworn a blood oath, Master God Diviner hadn't said he believed him. Now that he had sworn a blood oath, Master God Diviner was acting like this. However, Longao knew that now wasn't the time to shed all pretenses with Master God Diviner. He had to endure. Many thanks. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Master God Diviner nodded and smiled. Take care. Longao did not continue to stay. Instead, he directly left the Outer Sea Crystal Palace. In a short while, he had already disappeared without a trace. The 9 of them looked at each other, seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes. They had never imagined that things would develop to this point. You can leave as well. Master God Diviner didn't pursue the matter. The 9 of them sighed with relief. They had truly been afraid that Master God Diviner would attack. They didn't dare to linger. They immediately turned and left. Once they left, Yidugu appeared. He gravely asked, Father, does Longao's blood oath really have nothing to do with this matter? It shouldn't. Longao knows his own limits. If it has something to do with the primal chaos rock, then he's provoking us. Unless Longao's head is filled with water, there's no way he would do something like that. Since he had seen Longao swear a blood oath, Yidugu chose to believe him. After all, with his father's strength, there was no need for Longao to provoke him. Outside the martial heaven continent, Zhugeming, is what Lin Han and Wang Tao said true? The 8 of them felt helpless. Of course, they believed that Lin Han and Wang Tao could not have tricked the 9 of them. If that was the case, why would Longao dare to swear a blood oath? What was going on? No matter how he thought about it, he still couldn't figure it out. Lin Han and Wang Tao have already sworn a blood oath. Whether it's true or not, I don't need to say more. I believe you all know what it means. The 8 of them nodded simultaneously. After leaving the Outer Sea Crystal Palace, Longao did not hesitate at all. He rushed towards the Soaring Dragon Empire as fast as he could. Soaring Dragon Realm. Longao, are you all right? Yes, I'm fine now. Longao smiled and let out a long sigh of relief in his heart because this matter was also a fluke. The slightest bit of carelessness would have led to eternal damnation. Seeing Longao smile, Xiling smiled as well. It turned out that Longao's blood oath this time was prepared by him and Xiling in advance. The blood oath and Longao's actions seemed to be the same thing, but in fact, there was no connection at all. It was precisely because of this that Longao dared to swear a blood oath so recklessly and fool the 9 of them and the clairvoyant. This matter has come to an end, but the 9 of them will definitely not let it go. Longao, you still have to be careful. How could Longao not know what Xiling meant? This time, the 9 of them originally wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. They wanted to borrow the power of the clairvoyant to kill him, but they never expected that the final result would be a failure. How could the 9 of them choose to give up so easily? Xiling, I know what you mean. In the current situation, I have to find a way to break through the limit of the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. This way, even if I can't kill the 9 of them, at least I don't have to be afraid of them. It was easy to think about it, but it was difficult to really break through. There was nothing Xiling could do about it. Because of the limitations of his physique, Longao wanted to break through from the Starry Sky Immortal Realm to the limit of the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. The difficulty was too great. What should he do? Now, even if the Chaos Palace released a mysterious power, he couldn't smoothly break through after devouring it. He needed to devour even more power. As for how much power he needed, only ghosts knew. He was helpless. Longao found the Chaos Dopping and roughly told him what had happened. Chaos Dopping, it should be fine for the time being. The clairvoyant still can't grasp the power of chaos in the Chaos Stone Tablet, so he can't calculate our location for the time being. Take advantage of this time to recover from your injuries. As for the problem of recovery, you and I have to think about it. Whether the Chaos Dopping gave up or not, Longao knew that he couldn't give up. Whether it was for his friends or for himself, he had to find a way to help the Chaos Dopping recover. In this way, the Chaos Dopping could not only take revenge for him, but also restrain the clairvoyant. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The Chaos Dopping understood Longao's intentions very well. Longao, I will do my best to recover from my injuries. However, this will be difficult. For so many years, not only have I been sealed by the clairvoyant, but his Chaos Stone Tablet has also been constantly corroding me. Longao was no fool. He immediately understood what the Primal Chaos Rock meant. He said, Primal Chaos Rock, what you mean is that if the godly mathematician finishes eroding your power, then it is possible to open the seal on the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and obtain the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet's power. The Chaos Dopping nodded and said helplessly, Fortunately, you helped me this time. Otherwise, according to my guess, the clairvoyant would have completely corroded my power in less than a few 100 million years. If that really happened, we would be in big trouble. If the clairvoyant borrowed my power to obtain the power of chaos in the Chaos Stone Tablet, the chances of success would be as high as 80%. If that was really the case, then the situation was really too scary. Fortunately, he had helped the Chaos Dopping in time. A few 100 million years sounded like a long time, but to the clairvoyant, a few 100 million years was nothing. Perhaps it would pass in the blink of an eye. If that was the case, then no one in the vast universe would be a match for the clairvoyant. At that time, even if Tsang Lin recovered her consciousness, it would be unknown if she could contend against the clairvoyant. Chaos stopping, such a probability won't happen. I just want to ask, what would happen if the chaos stopping devoured your power? This was the key point. The chaos stopping smiled. You don't have to worry about that. The clairvoyant's corroding of my power had no effect on him. Chapter 2569. It was best that he didn't use it. Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. The current divine mathematician was already very difficult to deal with. What's more, if the divine mathematician had mastered the chaos power in the chaos stone tablet, it would mean a lot. Longao, you're a little strong. The chaos rock didn't continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Longao also shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Regarding his own cultivation, he was a little powerless even if he wanted to. Looking at Longao's expression, the chaos rock knew what was going on. Longao, is it because of your physique? He nodded. Longao didn't hide much from the chaos rock and roughly explained his physique. He and the chaos rock were already sitting in the same boat. I see. If it was for other reasons, the chaos rock might continue to help Longao break through from the starry sky immortal realm. The only problem was his physique, which was a little difficult to deal with. I'll think of a way to deal with this. You just stay here and recuperate. No one will disturb you. This was the Soaring Dragon Empire. Longao had the final say. The place where the Chaos Rock lived had been listed as a forbidden area by Longao. No one was allowed to take half a step in. Once a violation was committed, no matter who it was, they would be killed without mercy. The Chaos Rock didn't go anywhere. He directly settled down in the Soaring Dragon Plain because he knew very well that the vast starry sky was full of dangers. If he left here and was targeted by the divine mathematician and others, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao didn't leave the plain for the time being because the most important thing now was to find a way to break through from the starry sky immortal realm to the starry sky immortal realm. He went into seclusion to cultivate. Time passed by little. 30 years passed in the blink of an eye. Longao cultivated for 30 years, but still didn't have the slightest breakthrough. The biggest reason was his physique. Until now, Longao didn't know how much power he had to devour to successfully break through from the starry sky immortal realm. However, as early as 20 years ago, Tsang Lin suddenly returned to the Soaring Dragon Empire and suffered serious injuries. Tsang Lin's mind was still not light. Longao was a little dumbfounded because he really couldn't figure out who could injure Tsang Lin in the vast starry sky. But you have to know, back then, Tsang Lin had only used a single move to force back the divine mathematician. Such strength was enough to sweep through the vast starry skies. No one could rival her. Tsang Lin's mental state was not light, so no one knew who had injured her. After cultivating for 30 years, Longao no longer wanted to continue cultivating. He knew very well that according to the current situation, let alone 30 years, even if he continued to cultivate for 300 years, 30,000 years, or even 30 million years, he might not be able to break through to the starry sky immortal realm. It was very depressing. He was helpless to the extreme. From a trash body to a starry sky powerhouse, he had been improving rapidly. In fact, he had achieved all this in less than 100 years. However, from the starry sky realm onwards, the higher one went, the harder it was to break through. From the starry sky immortal realm to the peak starry sky immortal realm was only a step away, but it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He sat there helplessly, and beside him was Tsang Lin. The unconscious Tsang Lin didn't sit. She just stood there. After 20 years of recuperation, Tsang Lin's injuries had healed. Tsang Lin, you would go out every once in a while. The previous few times were fine, but this time, your injuries were very serious. Fortunately, you came back in time. It took you 20 years to fully recover. Longao was very worried, because if Tsang Lin could be injured once, he believed that she could be injured twice or thrice. If Tsang Lin was at her peak, in the entire vast starry sky, not to mention others. Even the divine mathematician wouldn't be her opponent. If that was the case, he naturally didn't need to worry. But now, the situation was completely different. Song Lin could actually be injured. This time, she might be lucky enough to avoid it, but she might not be able to do so again. If she was unlucky, Song Lin might only have one path, and that was death. In the beginning, Longao simply wanted to use Song Lin. After all, if he could control Song Lin, then he and his family could not only refine the Primal Chaos tablet, but also control the Primal Chaos power within the tablet. But as time slowly passed, Longao started to truly care about Song Lin. This kind of care wasn't like or love, but an inexplicable kind of care over time. Even he couldn't explain it clearly. This kind of care could only mean that he was powerless because every time Song Lin left, he couldn't do anything about it. Even if he locked onto Song Lin's position at all times, he couldn't do anything about it if Song Lin wanted to leave. It was a very helpless action. Song Lin was still in a dazed and delirious state. Sighing deeply, Longao looked at Song Lin, who was close at hand, and said helplessly, "Song Lin, your identity is a mystery. I believe it's not just me, but the entire vast starry sky wants to know your identity. If you can recover your consciousness, I won't have to worry about anything." Gently closing his eyes, Longao began to meditate. 30 years was nothing in the vast starry sky. The matter of the primal chaos rock and the white-clothed girl was still a big deal in the vast starry sky. However, whether it was the white-clothed girl or the primal chaos rock, it was like a stone sinking into the ocean. There wasn't the slightest bit of news about them. Not to mention ordinary people, even star rulers, half-step star rulers, and master godly mathematician couldn't calculate the location of the white-clothed girl and the primal chaos rock. Master godly mathematician was the most depressed because the longer the matter of the primal chaos rock was delayed, the more unfavorable it would be for him. If the primal chaos rock's injuries could be healed, then it would be almost impossible for him to continue controlling the primal chaos rock and erode its power. The most important thing right now was to find the primal chaos rock as quickly as possible because Master Godly Mathematician was very confident that as long as he could continue to seal the primal chaos rock and erode it, he could erode the primal chaos rock's power and control the primal chaos power in the primal chaos steel. At that time, he would be the sole ruler of the vast starry sky, and no one would be his opponent. The reason why Master Godly Mathematician was so anxious to let Longao try was because he didn't want to waste time. It would take him at least a few 100 million years to erode the power of the primal chaos steel. Who knew what would happen in a few 100 million years? There were too many variables. Even Master Godly Mathematician couldn't control the situation. Master Godly Mathematician didn't relax in the slightest after 30 years. Chapter 2570. In the end, the clairvoyant master once again launched a large-scale search operation, trying to ferret out the chaotic giant rock. The result was still unsatisfactory. He could not locate the chaotic giant rock at all. If he could locate a plane or a domain, then things would be much easier. If it was the vast starry sky, then it was a completely different concept. The vast starry sky was boundless. Again, no one knew how big the starry sky was. Not even Master Godly Mathematician knew the answer. In this case, it was very difficult to locate the chaotic giant rock. As time went by, countless years ago, the Peak Slaughterer clan swept across the vast starry sky and was almost invincible. In the end, if the 4 Peak clans had not joined forces, the starry sky today would have completely changed. As the Peak Slaughterer clan was severely injured, the Peak Slaughterer clan almost disappeared without a trace and had not appeared for so many years. But the result? Just 3 years ago, the Peak Slaughterer clan that had disappeared suddenly reappeared in the vast starry sky. What did this mean? If the Peak Slaughterer clan appeared so openly in the past, it would definitely be destroyed by the 4 Peak clans. But the situation now was completely different. For so many years, the 4 Peak clans no longer hated the Peak Slaughterer clan so much. It was because of this that the Peak Slaughterer clan dared to appear openly. However, if the Peak Slaughterer clan was still the same as before, then the result would be the same. There was no need to elaborate on the strength of the Pinnacle Massacre clan. The biggest reason why the four Pinnacle clans did not dare to casually make a move was because of a piece of news from the Pinnacle Massacre clan. The clan leader of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, Zhou Dian, had successfully broken through to the half-step Starry Sky ruler realm. What did this mean? The half-step Starry Sky Dominator was already standing at the true peak of martial arts. Unless the Starry Sky Dominator came, the half-step Starry Sky Dominator was truly invincible. The 6 peak clans were the Peak Human Clan, the Peak Dragon Clan, the Peak Underworld Clan, the Peak Mouse Clan, the Peak Slaughterer Clan, and the Peak Mysterious Clan. The Peak Mysterious Clan had always been elusive and basically did not show up in the vast starry sky. So many people had forgotten the existence of the Peak Mysterious Clan. Among the remaining 5 peak clans, if it were countless years ago, there was no doubt that the Peak Slaughterer Clan would be the strongest. But now, the situation was completely different. Among the 5 pinnacle races, the first was no longer the Pinnacle Slaughter race, but the Pinnacle Human race. Strictly speaking, it should be the 9 Pinnacle Starry Sky Empires of the Pinnacle Human race. Ever since the suppression of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, the 9 great Starry Sky Empires had been established one after another, and each of them had a half-step Starry Sky ruler. Since then, the Peak Human race had a total of 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers. They could contend against the other 5 peak races. However, the 9 great Starry Sky Empires had always been fighting openly and secretly. Otherwise, the Peak Human race would have already destroyed the other peak races and ruled the vast starry sky. Zhou Jian and Zhou Feng also spread the news about Longao. Longao's counterattack and rise caused a sensation in the vast starry sky for a while. However, as time passed, people gradually forgot about it. Right now, there were only 2 things that everyone was most concerned about. The first thing was the white-robed girl. Not only was she the astral ruler, but she had also defeated Master God Diviner with a single move. It was obvious who she was. Furthermore, she was unconscious, which made it the perfect time to control her. The second thing was the chaotic Great Rock. For so many years, Master God Diviner and the others had not chosen to give up. With the rise of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, the Pinnacle Dragon clan and the Pinnacle Mouse clan had also risen one after another. Soaring Dragon Realm. 7th brother, someone is looking for you. Someone is looking for me? Hearing Long Ying's words, Longao was very surprised. Because the Soaring Dragon Realm where he was located was very well hidden. Not to mention others, even Master God Diviner could not lock onto his location. Who could it be? Big brother, do you know who it is? It's a young girl, very beautiful. He said she's your confidant. Confidant? Hearing his big brother's description, Longao instantly knew who the young girl his big brother was talking about was. If he was not mistaken, the person who came to look for him this time was none other than Yun Qian, who had dual cultivated with him before. Longao already understood what was going on. If it was someone else, it would definitely be impossible to lock onto his location. Only Yun Qian was able to do so because he and Yun Qian had dual cultivated a mysterious skill. Relying on this skill, Yun Qian was able to lock onto his location. Just as Longao had guessed, the person who came to look for him this time was Yun Qian. In the main hall, only Longao and Yun Qian were present. As for Long Ying, she did not come in either. Longao, I believe you know how I locked onto your location. But don't worry, although the dual cultivation helped me, but after a while, even I, including you, would not be able to lock onto our positions. The reason I was able to lock onto your location this time was mainly because my father helped me to lock onto your realm. That's how I found you. There was no expression on his face, but his heart was shocked to the extreme. Even Master God Diviner could not lock onto his realm, but Yun Qian's father, Yun Lu, was able to do so. What did this mean? It was very frightening. Fortunately, he and Yun Lu were not enemies. If they were enemies, Yun Lu would be able to lock onto his realm, and he would be in a passive position. Until now, he still did not know how Yun Lu did it. As if she could guess what Longao was thinking, Yun Qian smiled and said, Longao, you can rest assured. With me around, my father will not be your enemy. I came to look for you this time because I have something to tell you. Longao did not continue to dwell on this issue. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he could not avoid it. He asked, "What is it?" Longao had a good impression of Yunqian. Otherwise, he would not have agreed to dual cultivate with her. Unknowingly, the relationship between the two of them would be much closer. This was because the skill they cultivated was very weak in a one-on-one fight. It was almost negligible. However, if they were to work together, then it would be two completely different concepts. They were not on the same level. Longao, I came here this time mainly because my father asked me to bring you a message. Seeing Yun Xian's grave expression, Longao muttered in his heart. He could not guess what message Yun Lu had asked Yun Xian to bring him. Was it good or bad? Please speak, Yun Xian said helplessly. My father asked me to tell you that it will not be long before Master God Diviner joins hands with other rulers of the starry sky to deal with you. He asked you to be careful. If you are willing, he is willing to ally with you. Chapter 2571. What did Yun Lu mean by that? Longao didn't know, but he knew very well that Yun Lu wouldn't do this without full confidence. However, he couldn't figure it out. Based on the current situation, Master Godly Mathematician couldn't possibly do anything to him. Yun Xian, where's your father now? I don't know. Longao knew that Yun Xian wouldn't lie to him. In the vast universe, among the 6 peak races, the peak mystic race was the most mysterious. Even Master Godly Mathematician and the other rulers didn't know the origin of the peak mystic race. He was very curious. Should he ask? Longao, my father has always been a divine strategist. He has never been wrong about anything. At this point, Yun Xian did not continue, but the meaning of her words was very clear. Longao wasn't a fool. He knew what Yun Xian meant. He was helpless. I understand. I still have other things to do. I'll take my leave first. You must be careful. Longao sent Yun Xian off. He sat alone in the soaring dragon empire, his expression solemn. If what Yun Lu said was true, then this matter was really troublesome. Was it true or false? Tianwu continent. Outer sea, Crystal Palace. Father, did you need me for something? Yes. I didn't want to deal with Longao so early. After all, I calculated that Longao was a variable in the vast universe. Perhaps he could help me control the primal chaos energy in the primal chaos stone tablet. However, I didn't expect that Longao would be the opposite of what I calculated. Perhaps in a situation where he can't help me, he might even stop me. Yidugu didn't say anything, but he already knew what had happened. It seemed that his father had calculated something again, or perhaps he had discovered something. According to my calculation and my guess, if there is no accident, the matter of the chaotic giant rock this time must be related to Longao. At the beginning, Master Godly Mathematician had only been suspicious. He hadn't wanted to deal with Longao at that time, so he hadn't acted. But now the situation was completely different. After so many years, the more Master Godly Mathematician thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. For countless years, nothing had ever happened when he sealed the chaotic giant Pong. Only this time, when Longao entered the seal, the chaotic giant Pong broke out of the seal. He would never believe that this had nothing to do with Longao. Father, are you saying that Longao has always been against you? Unbelievable. Yidugu knew better than anyone else what kind of existence his father was. Even if Longao's talent was unrivaled, before he became a ruler of the starry sky, there was no way he could be his father's opponent. Becoming his father's enemy was nothing short of suicide. Not to mention Yidugu, even the marvelous mathematician didn't quite believe it. However, the truth was already in front of his eyes, and he had no choice but to believe it. Longao is a variable that I can't control, so I have to get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this variable continues to advance, even I won't be able to control it. It was a bit of nonsense. Yidugu didn't seem to care. Father, you worry too much. You said before that as long as Longao can't become a ruler of the starry sky, then we have nothing to worry about. As long as we can control Longao's consumption of the primal chaos tablets, then we can sit back and relax. How could the marvelous mathematician not know what his son was thinking? He was helpless. Before, I thought things were too simple. I thought that in the vast universe, no one could escape my grasp. Now it seems that this Longao really is a variable. Yidugu was a bit dumbfounded. He had never imagined that his father would change so much. Could Longao really be such a variable? He chose to believe his father because he knew exactly what his father's Tao of divine divination meant. It seemed that things were really troublesome. Otherwise, his father wouldn't be like this. Right now, there is only one thing I'm worried about. In the Primal Chaos plane, Longao obtained 2 Primal Chaos tablets. He said that the Primal Chaos tablets left on their own. What if Longao still has the Primal Chaos tablets and has the help of the Primal Chaos rock? At this point, the marvelous mathematician didn't say anything else. He had already thought of the consequences, and it was a bit frightening. If that was really the case, then even he would be helpless. Yidugu was completely shocked because he finally understood what his father was worried about. There was no need to mention Longao's talent and potential. If what his father said was true, Longao would devour the Primal Chaos tablet. With the help of the Primal Chaos rock, Longao would be able to control the Primal Chaos power. Then, even his father would not be a match for Longao. It was terrifying. If that were the case, then the only way was to kill Longao before Longao became the ruler of the starry sky. That way, they could cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Dugu, this time, we have to succeed. We can't let Longao escape. If we succeed, not only will we be able to erode the power of the Primal Chaos rock, but we'll also be able to learn all of Longao's secrets, including the ability to shatter the starry sky. The ability to shatter the starry sky was what the marvelous mathematician wanted. If he could truly control the power of Primal Chaos, then even if he encountered a ruler of the starry sky, he wouldn't have to fear him. In fact, he might even be able to kill the white-robed girl. The marvelous mathematician didn't continue to lock onto the white-robed girl and the Primal Chaos rock. His top priority right now was to deal with Longao. He knew that locking onto Longao was the same as locking onto the Primal Chaos rock. That way, he wouldn't have to waste any more effort. As for the white-robed girl, given the current situation, it would be impossible to lock onto her. Master God Diviner didn't make a move on his own. Instead, he summoned the 9 half-step rulers of the Starry Sky Empires. His intention was simple. No matter what happened, they had to succeed in a single strike. They couldn't give Longao the slightest chance to escape. As for Longao's heaven-defying Starry Sky God item, Master God Diviner didn't care about it at all. Although Longao might be able to evade other people, he might not be able to evade a ruler of the Starry Sky. Master God Diviner was just worried that Longao might have other tricks up his sleeve. Once he left, he would be prepared, and it would be difficult to kill Longao again. Master God Diviner was just worried that Longao would be fine. With the help of the Primal Chaos rock, not only had the Longao become a ruler of the Starry Sky, but he had also mastered the power of Primal Chaos and the Primal Chaos steels. Not just Longao, even Ziling had similarly guessed that Yun Lu's background was definitely not simple. The divine mathematician was known as the #1 diviner in the vast starry sky. Since Yun Lu could calculate the divine mathematician's movements, it was obvious what this meant. Okay, based on the current situation, it seemed that this was the only thing he could do. He just hoped that Yun Lu could help him. Otherwise, this matter would be difficult. Longao originally wanted to find Yun Lu and ask him what was going on. He wanted to know why he was so sure that the divine mathematician would deal with him within a year. If this was true, then he would ask Yun Lu what he should do. The news of the divine mathematician's plan to deal with Longao was not spread. Apart from a few people, no one else knew. Again, the divine mathematician wanted to hit the target with one strike. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers had never imagined that the divine mathematician would choose to believe Longao 30 years ago. He would rather die than deal with Longao. After so many years, Longao had never appeared, and the divine mathematician had never mentioned him. They had thought that the matter of the Primal Chaos rock had nothing to do with Longao. Just as they were about to give up, the divine mathematician suddenly changed his mind and asked the 9 of them to work together to deal with Longao. If this matter were to spread, it would be a great loss of face. A starry sky ruler and 9 half-step starry sky rulers working together to deal with a starry sky immortal? Even they found it hard to believe. But there was no other way. Longao was a bit special. According to the legends, when Longao had left the Martial Heaven continent, he had only been an 8th-rank starry sky cultivator. In just a few hundred years, under the suppression of countless experts, Longao had not fallen at all. Instead, he had risen to his current level. In other words, other than the 10 of them, no one else knew about the matter of dealing with Longao. Whether it was the divine mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, none of them were able to lock onto Longao's position. This was the most depressing thing for the 10 of them. The 9 of them were especially shocked. They had never imagined that even the divine mathematician would be unable to lock onto Longao's position. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. The divine mathematician had obtained the divine mathematician primal chaos tablet, which was said to be able to calculate anything. But thinking about it, it made sense. If the divine mathematician could lock onto Longao's position, he wouldn't have needed to find the 9 of them. In the end, the divine mathematician was unable to calculate Longao's position. The Martial Heaven continent, the Outer Sea, the Crystal Palace. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers had gathered. In the vast starry sky, they had no way to lock onto Longao's position. They had to see if the divine mathematician had a way. However, the 9 of them were confident that once they locked onto Longao, Longao would definitely die. The power of the divine mathematician and the 9 of them working together could be imagined. They were more than enough to deal with a mere Longao. Are the 9 of you willing to lend me a hand? We are willing. Not to mention that the 9 of them wanted to kill Longao. The deterrence of the divine mathematician was there. If they dared to disagree, they could imagine what the consequences would be. Even if the divine mathematician couldn't completely destroy them, he could still suppress them. Thus, they would be suppressed for countless years, or even be sealed. No matter which one it was, these 9 people didn't want to see it. The 9 of them were very curious. They didn't know what the divine mathematician needed their help with. However, they were certain that the divine mathematician would definitely want to deal with Longao this time. With my power alone, it's very difficult to calculate Longao's position. That's why I need the 9 of you to help me. With the 10 of us working together, we should be able to lock onto Longao's position. Chapter 2573. They couldn't ask for more. The 9 of them couldn't wait for Master Clairvoyant to kill Longao. How could they refuse? In fact, the 9 of them knew very well that if they helped Master Clairvoyant to kill Longao this time, all of Longao's secrets would no longer have anything to do with them. If it were before, the 9 of them would definitely be very unwilling. But now, the situation was completely different. The 9 of them were very wary of Longao's talent and potential. If they allowed him to develop, they believed that it would be difficult for Longao to control him in the future. If Longao suppressed the 9 of them, they wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Without the slightest hesitation, under the leadership of Master Clairvoyant, the 9 half-step starry sky rulers began to lock onto Longao's position. Soaring Dragon Realm. Longao couldn't think of a good way to deal with Master Clairvoyant and the others. Until now, he still didn't know whether what Yunlu said was true or false. However, it was better to believe it than not. If this was true, then things would be troublesome. In desperation, Longao listened to Xilinx's advice and left the Soaring Dragon Realm, hoping to find Yunlu and ask what was going on. Even if he dual cultivated with Yunqian, he couldn't lock onto Yunqian's position. It was hard to imagine how Yunlu could lock onto his position. He really couldn't figure it out. What should he do? In the vast starry sky, it was really a bit impossible to find Yunlu and Yunqian. In the current situation, he could only rely on luck. If it was just himself, Longao wouldn't have the slightest worry. He had the Primal Chaos Palace. Even the starry sky rulers, including Master Clairvoyant, might not be able to lock onto his position. However, he had the whole family behind him. He couldn't be the slightest bit careless. Otherwise, the end result would be unimaginable. Yunlu, where are you? Longao knew very well that since Yunlu could calculate this matter, he must be able to help him. Otherwise, Yunlu wouldn't have to do this. The most important thing now was to find Yunlu's location. Where did Yunlu and Yunqian come from? Until now, Longao still didn't know where Yunlu and Yunqian came from. Even if he wanted to look for them, he had nowhere to go. Longao walked around aimlessly. If he was lucky, he would definitely be able to find Yunlu and Yunqian. If he was unlucky, then no matter how hard he searched, he would not be able to find Yunlu and Yunqian. Time trickled by. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Until now, he still hadn't found the location of Yunlu and Yunqian. If the godly mathematician were to deal with him within a year, then there wouldn't be much time left. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. He had to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Longao's heart grew more and more worried. Apart from believing Yunlu's words, he also believed in his intuition. This was because Longao had always believed in his intuition. Once the god diviner and the 9 of them arrived on the martial heaven continent, the starry sky fell silent. It was a little frighteningly calm. Especially now, the matter of the white-robed girl and the primal chaos rock had yet to be resolved, but the godly mathematician seemed to have disappeared. Many people were curious. However, the godly mathematician and the 9 half-step starry sky rulers had always been elusive. How could others see them? This matter had come to an end. Just a month after Longao left the soaring dragon plane, news about Songlin suddenly came from the starry sky. The news spread like wildfire. It was said that the white-robed girl had appeared in the 9th plane, which was the territory of the 9th starry sky. If it were any other time, Longao would definitely go to the 9th plane to find Songlin and find out what was going on. However, the situation was completely different now. After all, even if Songlin was delirious, her strength was still there. She would definitely be fine. However, the family was different. If he couldn't deal with the godly mathematician in the shortest time possible, his family would be in trouble. His family was his bottom line. No matter what happened, no matter what the situation was, he couldn't let anything happen to his family. Thinking of this, even if the vast starry sky had spread the news about the white-robed girl, Longao still continued to look for traces of Yunlu and Yunqian. He didn't go to the 9th plane to find Songlin. He still knew what was more important and what was less important. Longao didn't go to the 9th plane, but it didn't mean that others wouldn't go. Many starry sky cultivators from the surrounding planes were all heading towards the 9th plane. Everyone knew what the white-robed girl meant. Not only was she the starry sky ruler, but she had also defeated the godly mathematician with one move. More importantly, the white-robed girl was delirious. If they could control her, they believed that not only could they obtain the white-robed girl's primal chaos force, but they might also be able to dominate the vast starry sky. Not to mention powerful starry sky cultivators, even first-grade starry sky cultivators would go to the 9th plane to try their luck. After all, controlling the white-robed girl didn't depend on strength, but luck. The red, yellow, and white boundary was ruled by the red, yellow, and white empires. In the vast starry sky, the red, yellow, and white empires were very powerful. They were probably second only to the 9 great starry sky empires. Unknowingly, Longao had already entered the red, yellow, and white boundary. Because he didn't know Yunlu's identity, he didn't know where to start. He could only wander around and try his luck. After Longao entered the red, yellow, and white empires, he didn't want to stay for even half a moment. After all, the vast starry sky was infinitely big. He couldn't stay in one place forever. If that was the case, he would really delay everything. Just as Longao was about to leave the red, yellow, and white empires, the surrounding space was suddenly locked. He was shocked. In an instant, Longao already knew what had happened. He couldn't figure out how the godly mathematician and the 9 people had locked onto his position. Sure enough, the godly mathematician arrived with 9 half-step starry sky rulers at the same time. The 10 of them had smiles on their faces. After the 10 of them joined forces, they finally locked onto Longao's position. Now, with their powerful strength, it would be almost a matter of minutes to kill Longao. Senior, why are you here? Longao was well aware in his heart that the divine mathematician had brought 9 people here for what purpose. Longao, how are you going to explain the chaotic giant rock to me? It seemed that this matter couldn't be hidden anymore. Longao knew that the godly mathematician wouldn't have done this if he wasn't confident. In fact, Longao had already expected this result. After all, Lin Han and Wang Tao had already made a blood oath. Chapter 2574. In truth, Longao was still very curious. Given the God Diviner's shrewdness, there was no way he would only learn about the Primal Chaos Rock and the Primal Chaos Plane now. There were too many suspicious points. He couldn't figure it out. He didn't continue thinking about it. In any case, it had already happened. Longao, since you came from the martial heaven continent, I can spare your life, said the God Diviner. Longao didn't say anything. He just looked at the 10 people in front of him. Spare his life? How could the God Diviner let him off so easily? He understood the principle of cutting the weeds and removing the roots to prevent future trouble. He didn't care. The God Diviner was afraid that he wouldn't be able to lock onto Longao's position. Now that Longao was in front of him and the surrounding space had been sealed, it would be harder for him to leave than to ascend to the heavens. Hand over the Primal Chaos Rock and all your secrets, including the Primal Chaos Steels and shattering the starry sky. If you do, I'll seal you on the martial heaven continent and make you its ruler. How about it? Primal Chaos Steels? Shattering the starry sky? The 9 half-step starry sky rulers turned pale with fright when they heard Master Godly Mathematician's words. Everyone knew that. Back then, the Primal Chaos Plane had a total of 12 Primal Chaos Steels. 10 of them had vanished without a trace, while the other 2 had been obtained by Longao. However, according to what Longao had said, the 2 Primal Chaos Steels he had obtained had disappeared on their own. Although no one had believed it at first, the rulers of the starry sky had confirmed that the 2 Primal Chaos Steels in Longao's body had truly vanished. Gradually, people began to believe that the 2 Primal Chaos Steels had vanished from Longao's body. I don't have any Primal Chaos Steels. The God Diviner smiled. Longao, a straightforward person doesn't do underhanded things. Whether or not you obtained the Primal Chaos Steels, you and I both know in our hearts. Even if you didn't devour them, what about your family? He was shocked. Longao had always believed that the God Diviner didn't know that he had obtained 12 Primal Chaos Steels. But now it seemed that the God Diviner knew. If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that the God Diviner knew everything about him? If that was the case, why did the God Diviner feign ignorance? Insidious. Master God Diviner's schemes weren't small, but there was one thing Longao couldn't figure out. If Master God Diviner knew about this, and had endured for so many years, then why didn't he continue to endure? Longao was almost certain that something must have happened. Otherwise, the God Diviner wouldn't have dealt with him so quickly. There were too many mysteries. It seems that whatever I say is useless. If that's the case, then let's fight. Why waste words? Longao's attitude was already there. Whether it was the godly mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, they all understood what Longao meant. Longao had tried many times to enter the Primal Chaos Palace. But what was the result? Even if 9 half-step starry sky rulers joined forces, they could still lock down the surrounding space, let alone the godly mathematician. Now that a starry sky ruler and 9 half-step starry sky rulers joined forces to seal the surrounding space, Longao couldn't step into the Primal Chaos Palace. If not for this, Longao wouldn't be so dignified. Ha ha ha, Longao, do you want to enter the Starry Sky God artifact? As soon as the God Diviner finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Before Longao could react, the God Diviner had already struck him several times. The God Diviner didn't use his full strength. Otherwise, these consecutive strikes would have killed or seriously injured Longao. Even if Longao had merged with the Primal Chaos 9-colored Lotus and had 9 lives, facing a powerful starry sky powerhouse like the God Diviner, it would be difficult for him to survive. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Longao's face was extremely pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. If he hadn't merged with the Primal Chaos 9-colored Lotus and his defensive power hadn't improved by leaps and bounds, he would have died by now. Even so, The godly mathematician and the other 9 people couldn't help but be shocked when they saw Longao forcibly resist. Longao, do you know why I didn't kill you before? I'd like to hear the details. Longao was also very curious. He naturally knew why the God Diviner hadn't attacked him for so many years. Since the God Diviner knew that he had devoured the Primal Chaos Tablet, then under normal circumstances, the God Diviner would definitely kill him, especially after what had happened with the Primal Chaos Rock. So why was that? Under normal circumstances, the God Diviner wouldn't have said anything. But now that the situation was set, the God Diviner couldn't help but speak. Longao, I've calculated countless things in my life, including you. I always thought that you were a variable that could help me obtain primal chaos energy. Longao completely believed that. Other than this, he couldn't think of any other reason why the God Diviner would secretly help him on the Martial Heaven continent. Longao still didn't say anything. He just listened. However, I never thought that my calculations would be wrong. You really are a variable, but you are a variable that is hindering me. If it hadn't been for you, the Primal Chaos Rock wouldn't have broken out of the seal. So that's how it was. After listening to the Divine Mathematician's words, Longao completely understood what was going on. It turned out that the Divine Mathematician felt that he was becoming more and more unpredictable and could no longer control him. So, in order to avoid any more trouble, he decided to kill him. The God Diviner hadn't been able to control him because he had devoured the Primal Chaos Tablet. With the Primal Chaos Rock's help, not only would he become the ruler of the starry sky, but he would also be able to control Primal Chaos energy. If that was the case, then even the God Diviner wouldn't be able to suppress him. Longao smiled. From start to finish, he hadn't thought about becoming enemies with the God Diviner. However, Longao also knew that given their conflicting interests, it was only a matter of time before they ended up on opposite sides. He just hadn't expected it to happen so suddenly. It seemed that the God Diviner hadn't only attacked him because of the Primal Chaos Rock and the Primal Chaos Tablet. There had to be something else that he hadn't said. Longao didn't ask, because the God Diviner had probably already said what he wanted to say. There was no need for him to wait until now. He was just curious. Longao's heart was heavy. The Divine Mathematician's strength was there, plus 9 half-step starry sky rulers. This time, the chances of him leaving this place alive were almost zero. However, he was not willing to die here. The only way was to do everything he could to break the seal and enter the Primal Chaos Hall. As long as he could enter the Primal Chaos Hall, he would be safe. Chapter 2575. Thinking about it was easy, but actually doing it was very difficult. Let alone the God Diviner. Even if the 9 half-step sovereigns joined forces, he wouldn't be able to break through the spatial lock. The more he fought, the more helpless he felt. If this continued, there would only be one end for him. The 10 of them joining forces to kill him. What should he do? The God Diviner didn't want to waste any more words. Originally, he hadn't wanted to kill Longao, cripple his cultivation base, and seal him in the Martial Heaven continent. After all, Longao was a variable. However, the situation was already set in stone. If he didn't kill Longao, he would be a problem once he escaped. Kill. The God Diviner didn't attack. Instead, he prepared to guard the rear. The 9 half-step sovereigns charged at Longao at the same time, their speed rising to the limit. 8 half-step starry sky sovereigns came out from 8 different directions. The White Crystal Eye was watching the overall situation. This time, they couldn't give Longao an opportunity to escape. The 9 people understood that the Divine Mathematician was watching from the side. If the 9 of them couldn't kill Longao under such circumstances, then they wouldn't be able to explain themselves to the Divine Mathematician, not to mention losing face. The 9 people's attacks were very fierce. Wave after wave, they were relentless. Let alone the 9 of them joining forces, Longao wouldn't even be a match for any one of them. Holding the Primal Chaos Axe, Longao sneered at the 9 of them attacking him. In any case, things had already come to this point. He could only brace himself and fight. The first of the Primal Chaos 9 axes, Hell Devouring. Longao had already gone crazy. He swung his axe dozens of times in every direction. This wasn't an ordinary attack, but a fusion of the primal Chaos 9 axes and Starry Sky mastery. Its power could be imagined. In the face of such a powerful attack, even the half-step sovereigns didn't dare to be careless. The strong fought, and the brave won. If it weren't for the difference in their realms, it wouldn't have been easy for the 9 of them to win. The 9 of them looked at each other, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Even the God Diviner hadn't expected Longao's shattering Starry Sky to have such a qualitative leap. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. "Continue," said the God Diviner indifferently. The 9 of them didn't dare hesitate. Bai Jing, Zhu Geming, Gong Sun He, Xiafeng, Zhou Bolai, Lu Mu, Fong Buping, and Wei Bujing clenched their teeth. They continued to charge toward Longao. They didn't dare. That was because Longao had shattered the Starry Sky and released a crack in the Starry Sky. If they were swallowed by it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Once he was forcefully devoured, he would definitely die. Even Master God Diviner would suffer the same fate if he were sucked into a spatial rift. The more Master God Diviner watched, the more delighted he was. Longao's spacecrack was indeed powerful. Even the divine mathematician couldn't help but want to obtain it. Longao must be killed. It seemed that he had made a wise move this time. The 9 of them were moving faster and faster. In just a few minutes, Longao was beginning to feel like he couldn't hold on. If this continued, he believed that he would be killed by the 9 half-step sovereigns in less than 3 minutes. He was hit continuously. Longao didn't die? The 9 of them were deeply shocked. Given the strength of their attacks, even a peak Starry Sky immortal wouldn't be able to resist, let alone Longao. However, not only could Longao resist their attacks, but he also didn't die. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. How did Longao do it? There was only one explanation. Whether it was the 9 people or the divine mathematician, all of them had guessed that Longao not only had a divine tool of space, but also a divine tool of heaven-defying defense. That divine tool had been able to withstand the joint attack of the 9 people. One could imagine how powerful that divine tool of heaven-defying defense was. It would be a lie to say that they didn't feel the slightest bit of greed. The 9 of them didn't choose to give up. After killing Longao, they could ask the God Diviner for a defensive divine artifact. They believed that the God Diviner only wanted the shattered Starry Sky, the primal chaos steel, and the primal chaos rock. He shouldn't care about the other things. With the God Diviner's strength, how many people could compete with the God Diviner? It was useless. Thinking of this, the 9 of them didn't stop at all. Instead, their attacks became more and more frenzied. Not only that, in order to end the battle quickly, the 9 of them all used the power of secret realms. In this way, even if Longao was protected by the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus and the Primal Chaos 9 axes, he was still directly attacked by the 9 of them. The Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, according to Longao's guess, as long as he died 9 times, he would die. But the result? Under the continuous attacks of the 9, he died 9 times in the blink of an eye. However, just when Longao thought he had died, a miracle suddenly happened. The situation suddenly changed. The Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, under the fierce attacks from the outside, began to slowly rotate, forming an endless cycle. He was overjoyed. Of course, Longao knew what it meant when the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus formed an endless cycle. It also meant that he had truly achieved immortality. Not to mention the 9 of them. Even the God Diviner couldn't really kill him unless the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus was completely destroyed. However, that was impossible. The more they attacked, the more shocked they became. The 9 of them even began to doubt their own strength because it was a bit too abnormal. The 9 of them were so powerful, but Longao still didn't die. He was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. After dozens of minutes of attacks, Longao still didn't fall. However, gradually, Longao's injuries became more and more serious. In this case, even if he didn't die, he would be sealed by the God Diviner and the others. At that time, he would suffer a fate worse than death. If it really came to that, He would rather die than be controlled by the God Diviner and the others. Longao had already thought it through. If he really couldn't do it, he would seal himself. If he couldn't even seal himself, then he would have to kill himself. However, the current situation was a bit special. Even if he wanted to kill himself, it seemed a bit difficult because the primal chaos nine-colored lotus had formed an endless cycle. In a situation where he couldn't destroy the primal chaos nine-colored lotus, he couldn't die. Longao never thought that this would be the result. Longao was directly hit by the 9 of them. His body flew out like a kite with a broken string. If it had been a moment ago, Longao would have been able to forcibly stop himself. However, as his injuries became more and more serious, he couldn't do anything. Longao's face became more and more pale as he was smashed to the ground. Chapter 2576. He waved his hand. The 9 didn't continue to attack. Instead, they respectfully retreated to the side. Seeing Longao stand up shakily, Master God Diviner smiled and said, "Longao, I want to ask you a question. How did you do it?" Even the 9 were curious, let alone Master God Diviner. They wanted to know the reason. Longao naturally knew what Master God Diviner meant. He sneered. "Why should I tell you?" Instead of getting angry, Master God Diviner smiled and said, "Longao, you should know that the current situation is very unfavorable for you. Even if you don't tell me, I'll make you tell me after I seal you." Master God Diviner wasn't surprised. This was because Longao had already guessed that with the means of the godly mathematician, once he sealed himself, it would not be difficult for him to find out anything. That was what he was most worried about. Seeing Longao remain silent, the 9 smiled. If it weren't for Master God Diviner, the 9 of them would have had a hard time dealing with Longao. It would be a pity for such a monstrous genius to die like this. However, what was done was done. The 9 of them naturally hoped that Longao would die. After all, Longao's talent and potential were terrifying. If he continued to develop, who knew what would happen? If that happens, Longao, don't blame me. Master God Diviner, before I die, there's something I don't understand. Master God Diviner smiled. Master God Diviner smiled and said, "Why don't you tell me?" Master God Diviner wasn't worried at all. In his opinion, Longao was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. If Longao could escape, then Master God Diviner would be committing suicide. The marvelous mathematician had full confidence in his ability to lock down space and 9 half-step starry sky dominators. Unless Longao could become a starry sky dominator, it would be almost impossible for him to break through the surrounding space and escape. My guess is that you already knew about the primal chaos plane and the current primal chaos rock. You didn't make a move because I was a variable. I believe you said it was because of me. The marvelous mathematician didn't say anything. Master God Diviner hadn't been willing to make a move on Longao, and hadn't dared to say anything about the Longao. Because of that, Master God Diviner hadn't been willing to take action. This was what Longao was truly curious about. "I want to know why you suddenly want to attack me." Master God Diviner didn't make a move. The primordial rock and Master God Diviner still hadn't made a move. Longao couldn't figure out why the divine mathematician had chosen this time to deal with him. He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. In the past, Master God Diviner definitely wouldn't have said anything. But now, he waved his hand. Master God Diviner's meaning was clear. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers all had ugly expressions. They originally thought that after killing Longao, even if they couldn't obtain the primal chaos stone tablet or the shattered starry sky, they could at least obtain the heaven-defying starry sky divine artifact in Longao's hands. Whether it was a space-type starry sky spirit artifact or a defensive starry sky spirit artifact, their power was evident. How could he not leave? The 9 of them naturally knew what it meant if they didn't leave.
Farewell.
With no other choice, the 9 of them left in a single file. Before long, they were gone without a trace. Unsurprisingly, Longao had already guessed that Master God Diviner would move the 9 of them away. "Longao, since you're about to die, I'll tell you the truth. Many thanks. What you just said is true. According to my calculations, you really are a variable, because I can't divine your future at all. Longao didn't say anything. He just listened quietly. However, I'm still prepared to take the risk. That's why, whether it was the chaos plane, the chaos rock, or even your shattered starry sky, I endured time and time again. I didn't make a move against you. Longao still didn't say anything. He endured the waves of pain in his body until he finally stabilized. You just asked me why I chose to make a move now after enduring for so many years, even ignoring the Chaos Stone Tablet and the Chaos Rock. I'll tell you now. I'm all ears. As he looked at Longao, Master God Diviner couldn't help but sigh. Half a year ago, after hundreds of years of divining, I finally came to a conclusion regarding your divination. So that was how it was. It had only been a matter of time. After all, Master God Diviner had already consumed and fused with the Chaos Stone Tablet. Although he hadn't yet mastered the chaos energy within it, his divination abilities were still there. But Longao couldn't figure out what Master God Diviner had divined, and why he was so determined to deal with him. He didn't ask, because he was sure that Master God Diviner would tell him. And so it was. Longao, according to my calculations, I never would have guessed that you would be the bane of my existence. If you don't die now, then in the future, even if I don't die by your hands, I'll probably die because of you. Longao had already figured everything out. Since he had divined this, then let alone Master God Diviner, anyone else would have done the same thing. He wanted to cut the weeds and pull out the roots to prevent future trouble. Longao, I was originally thinking of sealing you in the Martial Heaven continent. That way, I could watch over you at all times, and I wouldn't be afraid of you playing any tricks. But after thinking about it, it's better to cut the weeds and pull out the roots to avoid future trouble. Longao naturally knew that Master God Diviner would cut the weeds and pull out the roots. He clenched the primal chaos axe. Even if he was sealed, he had to injure Master God Diviner. Otherwise, he would be letting himself down. How could Master God Diviner not know what Longao was thinking? However, he wasn't worried at all. With his current strength, killing Longao would be a matter of minutes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let the 9 half-step sovereigns leave. Master God Diviner was very interested in all of Longao's secrets. After all, he had been able to resist the joint attack of 9 half-step sovereigns. He knew that Longao's divine item was heaven-defying. Even Master God Diviner hoped to obtain such a heaven-defying divine item. Time's up. Master God Diviner didn't hesitate. In any case, Longao was fated to die. It was better to die early than later. Ever since he had divined this, Master God Diviner had been uneasy. He wanted to kill Longao immediately, afraid that Longao would become a threat to him in the future. Just as Master God Diviner was about to attack, a terrifying aura descended and enveloped Longao. Ha ha ha, Master God Diviner, don't you think you're going a bit too far? Author's note, 10 chapters will be released tomorrow, starting at dawn tonight. Chapter 2577. Looking at the 3 people who descended, Longao was also very surprised. The 3 newcomers were none other than Yunlu and the 2 elders, Yunhe and Yuntian. Master Godly Mathematician's expression was gloomy as he looked at the 3 newcomers. If it had been the old Yunlu, he wouldn't have cared. However, he was no longer the same as before. No matter what, he'd successfully refined the Primal Chaos Tablet and become a starry sky ruler. Even he wasn't completely certain he could defeat Yunlu if he forced his way through. He couldn't figure out why Yunlu had suddenly stepped in to stop him and help Longao. Could it be that this was a variable? The more this was the case, the more worried Master Godly Mathematician became. He knew very well that Longao was too unpredictable. If he allowed Longao to escape, who knew what would happen in the future? Yunlu, what do you mean by this? Yunlu didn't seem to care in the slightest. Instead, he smiled. Master Godly Mathematician, little brother Longao and I hit it off at first sight. We can be considered friends, so? Speaking up to this point, Yunlu did not continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was already very clear. Master Godly Mathematician was no fool. He naturally knew what Yunlu meant. His expression grew even more unsightly. Yunlu, you and I have always minded our own business. Why are you siding with this person? Master Godly Mathematician couldn't figure it out. Under normal circumstances, why would someone of Yunlu's status help a mere starry sky immortal? He was almost certain that Longao and Yunlu weren't friends of life and death. Master Godly Mathematician. Before Yunlu could speak, Master Godly Mathematician continued, Yunlu, is it worth it to form a grudge with me for a mere Longao? Unless it was absolutely necessary, Master Godly Mathematician hadn't wanted to provoke Yunlu. But the result? Yunlu smiled and said, I just said that Longao and I hit it off at first sight. Moreover, he's my son-in-law. Tell me, is it worth it? Longao didn't say anything. Master Godly Mathematician was a bit surprised. He knew Yunlu had no reason to trick him. No wonder Yunlu had stepped in to help Longao. Yunlu, you've only just become a ruler of the starry sky. Do you think you're a match for me? Really? Yunlu laughed coldly without the slightest trace of fear. Instead, his face was filled with disdain. Right at this moment, the two people behind Yunlu, Yunhe and Yuntian, suddenly released a terrifying aura that was almost identical to Master God Diviner's and Yunlu's. What kind of concept was that? Yunhe and Yuntian were also rulers of the universe. What was going on? Even Longao was shocked, as neither the Master Godly Mathematician nor Longao had expected that the two elders behind Yunlu would be star sky rulers. Having three sovereigns of the starry sky meant that Longao and Master God Diviner both understood what it meant. Looking at the three rulers of the starry sky in front of him, the marvelous mathematician's face was extremely gloomy. Yunlu, you insist on taking action? Master God Diviner, I don't care about the others. But if you want to deal with Longao, the three of us can join forces. Even if we can't kill you, we can seal you or send you into the cycle of reincarnation. You should know what that means. If he was alone, the marvelous mathematician wouldn't be afraid. But with three sovereigns of the starry sky, he would be lying if he said he wasn't afraid. The marvelous mathematician couldn't figure out how Yunhe and Yuntian could refine the chaos steels and become rulers of the universe. All right, that's what you said. The marvelous mathematician didn't want to stay a moment longer. He immediately turned and left, disappearing without a trace. Yunlu's intention was actually very simple. In other words, the others, including half-step sovereigns of the starry sky, and even the sovereigns of the starry sky, could deal with Longao as they pleased. The marvelous mathematician left because he knew that there wasn't much point in staying. It would be better to gather the other half-step sovereigns of the starry sky, or even the other sovereigns of the starry sky, to deal with Longao. The sovereigns of the starry sky always kept their word. Since Yunlu said he wouldn't interfere, he believed Yunlu wouldn't. Longao, I can only help you suppress the marvelous mathematician. As for the others, you'll have to rely on yourself. As for the reason, I can't say much about it now. Many thanks. Even so, Longao couldn't thank Yunlu enough. If Yunlu hadn't suddenly appeared and scared off the marvelous mathematician, he believed he would have been forcibly sealed by the marvelous mathematician. The Chaos 9-colored lotus was already circulating endlessly. Even the marvelous mathematician couldn't kill him. However, under the seal, it was a fate worse than death. Senior Yun, call me Uncle. Uncle Yun, if I'm not mistaken, the chaos steels you devoured should also be of the marvelous mathematician attribute. Ha ha ha, you're really smart. Ha ha ha. Yunlu's words proved that Longao's guess was correct. Without saying anything else, he turned and left with Yunhe and Yuntian. Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. With Yunlu's deterrence, he believed the marvelous mathematician wouldn't personally deal with him. In the current situation, the marvelous mathematician was the biggest threat to him. As for Yunlu, if he hadn't devoured the marvelous mathematician's chaos steels, how could he have calculated that the marvelous mathematician would deal with him within a year? Didn't this mean that Yunlu's marvelous mathematician Dao was above the marvelous mathematicians? With the marvelous mathematician making a move, Longao was very clear that his troubles would only grow. If he didn't raise his strength as quickly as possible, it wouldn't be good for him in the future. In the Soaring Dragon Empire, There were 15 people who had devoured the chaos steels. However, not a single one of them, including the marvelous mathematician and Long Chong, had been able to successfully refine the chaos steels and become a starry sky ruler. If someone could become a starry sky ruler, and if there were 2 or more starry sky rulers, then the situation would be reversed. However, to refine the chaos steels and become a starry sky ruler was very difficult. No one knew when the Soaring Dragon Empire's people who had devoured the chaos steels would be able to refine the chaos steels. Longao's injuries were very heavy. He turned and entered the primal chaos palace, preparing to recuperate. The martial heaven continent. In the outer sea, within the crystal palace. The marvelous mathematician's expression was gloomy. To the side, Yi Dugu didn't dare to ask any questions. He just stood there, trembling. He didn't know why his father and 9 half-step starry sky rulers had come to deal with Longao. Could it be that even his father and 9 half-step starry sky rulers hadn't been able to kill Longao? If that was the case, it was hard to believe. After all, others might not know his father's strength, but how could he not know? Chapter 2578. The news of Master Godly Mathematician and 9 half-step sovereigns besieging Longao hadn't spread in the vast starry sky. About 10 minutes later, one figure after another entered the martial heaven continent and arrived outside the crystal palace in the outer sea. A total of 9 people. These 9 people were none other than the 9 half-step sovereigns from the 9 great starry sky empires. They were Bai Jing, Zhu Geming, Gong Sunhe, Xiafeng, Zhou Bolai, Lu Mu, Kong Xiao, Fang Buping, and Wei Bujing. The 9 of them looked at each other and saw deep curiosity in each other's eyes. No matter who it was, they didn't know what had happened. There was no other way. The 9 of them entered the crystal palace in a single file. May I know why the sovereign has summoned the 9 of us? Even now, the 9 of them still didn't know why Master Godly Mathematician had summoned them. The 9 of them looked at Master Godly Mathematician in front of them. His gloomy expression made them even more worried. Was it because of Longao? Under normal circumstances, Longao had been seriously injured. If Master Godly Mathematician had personally attacked, killing Longao should have been a simple matter. Because of this, the 9 of them couldn't believe that Master Godly Mathematician had failed to kill Longao. If they knew, who knew what they would think? Let alone the 9 of them, even Yi Dugu was curious. He didn't know what had happened to his father. Umph! He snorted coldly. Master Godly Mathematician's voice was extremely cold. I didn't kill Longao. Didn't kill Longao? What did that mean? Could it be that Master Godly Mathematician had sealed Longao? Whether it was the 9 half-step sovereigns or Yi Dugu, they didn't know what Master Godly Mathematician meant. Longao is gone. Huh. Everyone was completely shocked when they heard the divine mathematician's words. They couldn't figure out how Longao was able to escape from the divine mathematician's attack. It was completely inconceivable. Master Godly Mathematician's expression was so cold. It seemed this was true. Father, what's going on? The 9 of them didn't dare to ask. In the end, it was Yi Dugu who spoke. Master Godly Mathematician was furious, but there was nothing he could do. After all, Yun Lu and the other 2 sovereigns were a deterrent. Even if his son successfully became a sovereign, he still wouldn't be a match for Yun Lu. As for the other sovereigns of the starry sky, they hated Master Godly Mathematicians as Master Godly Mathematicians. Master Godly Mathematician was mathematician as Master Godly Mathematician. Master Godly Mathematician. If he had eliminated Longao earlier, then today's matter would not have happened. Thinking of this, the divine mathematician became more and more regretful. Godly Mathematician, S. God Ancient Saint Mathematician, Godly Mathematician, God T. S. Godly God Godly Godly Aos God Gods, Godly Heave. The Godly Mathematician didn't hide much about Yun Lu's appearance, so he gave a brief account. After listening, everyone knew what had happened. Yi Dugu and the 9 half-step sovereigns of the starry sky knew better than anyone else what 3 sovereigns of the starry sky meant. Because of this, the 10 of them had never imagined that Yun Yun Tian and Yun He were all sovereigns of the starry sky. Even Master Godly Mathematician didn't know about this. If it had been anyone else, it wouldn't have mattered. But with 3 sovereigns of the starry sky, even Master Godly Mathematician couldn't interfere, let alone the 9 of them. The 9 of them had already decided that even if Master Godly Mathematician wasn't happy, the 9 of them would take the risk and refuse. If they were targeted by the 3 sovereigns of the starry sky, they would be in big trouble. Master Godly Mathematician knew what the 9 of them were thinking. 1 against 3, not to mention the 9 of you, even I don't have the confidence to win. Don't worry, the 9 of you. I have already made an agreement with Yunlu. In the vast starry sky, other than me, Yunlu and the others will not interfere in the fight against Longao. So that's how it is. The 9 of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid of Yunlu and the other 2, but they didn't care about Longao. As long as they could lock down the space around Longao, killing Longao would be too easy. In an instant, the 9 of them understood what Master Godly Mathematician meant. Sovereign, if we can successfully kill Longao, I hope you will allow us to obtain his 2 starry sky divine artifacts and the primal chaos stone tablet in Longao's body. In the past, the 9 of them wouldn't have dared to make such a request even if they were beaten to death. However, the situation was completely different now. Master Godly Mathematician couldn't take action himself, so he could only rely on the 9 of them. Otherwise, no one in the vast starry sky could do this. How could Master Godly Mathematician not know what the 9 of them were thinking? He sneered inwardly. After he killed Longao, it would be the 9 of them. At that time, he had to rely on the 9 of them, so he couldn't go too far. Okay, the 9 of them turned and left. At this time, Yiduga said, Father, the 9 of them are a bit too much. As everyone knows, Longao's 2 starry sky divine artifacts are very heaven-defying. Waving his hand, the divine mathematician didn't wait for Yidugu to finish speaking. He said, At this time, we still need to rely on 9 people to deal with Longao. I have an agreement with Yunlu. I can't take action. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. Father, are we just going to give it to them? Yidugu was very unwilling. Whether it was the primal chaos stone tablet or the 2 starry sky divine artifacts, how could they just let the 9 of them get away so easily? If it weren't for the fact that his father needed to rely on them, he would have already taken action. Master Godly Mathematician was also very angry, but he suddenly smiled and said, When the time comes, we can only seal or suppress the 9 of them. If we can't, we can just send them into the cycle of reincarnation. Yidugu smiled. Of course, he knew that the others might not have the strength, but it didn't mean that his father didn't have the strength. His father was a genuine starry sky ruler. Even so, this matter didn't spread out in the vast starry sky because Master Godly Mathematician and the 9 half-step starry sky rulers couldn't kill Longao. If this matter spread out, whether it was Master Godly Mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, they would lose face. The 9 of them returned to their respective starry sky empires and immediately began to make preparations. No matter what, before they wanted to deal with Longao, they first had to locate Longao's location. But until now, they still didn't know where the Soaring Dragon Empire was. It could be said that they wanted to kill Longao, but they were powerless. Chapter 2579. Soaring Dragon Realm. After listening to everything Longao said, Xiling sighed. He was very scared. Fortunately, Yunlu and the other 2 had arrived in time. Otherwise, the divine mathematician and 9 half-step starry sky rulers would have no problem killing Longao. Longao, even if the divine mathematician and Yunlu have an agreement that he won't attack you personally, it doesn't mean the divine mathematician won't kill you with a borrowed knife. How could Longao not understand Xiling's meaning? Because of what happened back then, I believe the other starry sky rulers won't help the divine mathematician. According to my guess, the divine mathematician will ask Bai Jing and the others for help. That should be the case. Xiling's face was very solemn as he continued. The 9 of them are half-step starry sky rulers. If they join forces, no one in our empire is a match for the 9 of them. He nodded. In the empire, If no one succeeded in becoming a starry sky ruler, or if Miao Ling became a half-step starry sky ruler, it would be very difficult to contend against the 9 great starry sky empires. Xiling, the most important thing now is to break through from the starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm in the shortest time possible. Longao was full of confidence. If he could smoothly break through from the starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm, then he wouldn't have to be restrained like before even if he faced the 9 half-step starry sky rulers. He would be in an invincible position. However, it was easy to think about breaking through, but extremely difficult to do in reality. Longao, I know what you mean. If there were other reasons preventing you from breaking through, then I would have a way. However, your constitution is very special. Even I can't do anything about it. The problem of constitution was the most troublesome thing. If it was just an ordinary constitution, then it would be fine. However, Longao's constitution was very special. Otherwise, Longao's cultivation wouldn't have been stuck at the starry sky immortal realm for so many years, unable to break through to the limit starry sky immortal realm. Regarding his own physique, Longao was also extremely helpless. If he couldn't solve the problem of his physique, then breaking through his cultivation would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Seeing that Longao didn't say anything, Xiling said, Longao, if I remember correctly, you once said that if you want to break through your current level, you have to swallow a lot of power, right? That's right. This was what Longao was most troubled by. His physique was too tyrannical. Previously, he didn't feel anything. As long as he continuously devoured the energy within the dragon seal space, he would be able to smoothly break through. Although his physique was tyrannical, it was also thanks to his own physique that he was able to improve so quickly over the years. But now, since his cultivation broke through to the starry sky realm, even if he swallowed a huge amount of power, it would not help. Not to mention other powers, just the mysterious power within the primal chaos palace was not enough. Only God knew how much power was needed to break through from starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm. It was very depressing. Longao, I know of a place with limitless power. No matter how tyrannical your constitution is, I believe it will be more than enough. What place? Hearing the place Xiling mentioned, Longao was overjoyed and couldn't wait to ask. What about Xiling? He wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. His face was full of helplessness and fear. As soon as he saw the expression on Xiling's face, Longao already knew that the place Xiling was talking about was not simple. If that was not the case, with the relationship between Purple Spirit and himself, she would not have been so hesitant and so solemn. What kind of place was it? The vast starry sky was boundless. In the vast starry sky, there were many places that even the starry sky ruler did not know about, let alone him. There were some places that even the starry sky ruler did not dare to casually step into. Xiling, if you have something to say, just say it. There is no need to hide it. Xiling sighed deeply. Xiling said helplessly, Longao, you know about this place. Not only you and me, but many people know about it. What was going on? Longao was very curious. He did not know what was going on, because in his memory, there did not seem to be such a place with limitless power. Seeing that Longao did not speak, Xiling was also helpless, because she was very clear about the seriousness of the matter. If Longao could not break through his cultivation in a short time, then he would encounter 9 half-step starry sky rulers. He could try his luck once or twice, but what about 3, 4, 5, or 6 times? In the end, Xiling sighed deeply again and said, this place is not just any place. It is the spring of chaos that the marvelous mathematician took you to. Ah, the spring of chaos? Longao was very surprised because he never thought that the place that Violet Spirit spoke of was actually the primal chaos spring that he had gone to back then. For this primal chaos spring, the godly mathematician had put in a lot of effort. But it should be known that, if it weren't for the spring of primal chaos, Master God Diviner wouldn't have allowed the 11 starry sky sovereigns to remain alive. In fact, the spring of primal chaos was the reason why the 11 starry sky sovereigns, including Violet Spirit, had chosen to believe in Master God Diviner. Longao, I believe that you should know more about the spring of chaos than I do. The marvelous mathematician had calculated that as long as we could step into the spring of chaos, we would be able to control the chaotic power in the chaos tablet. But in the end, we found that we could not step into it at all. Otherwise, we, including the marvelous mathematician, would all be killed by the spring of chaos. Longao certainly knew what Xiling had said. The marvelous mathematician had not done anything to him, not only because he was a variable, but also because he hoped that he could help him enter the spring of chaos and obtain the chaotic power. However, man proposes, heaven disposes. Never in his wildest dreams could Master God Diviner have imagined that things would come to this. Otherwise, considering how vicious Master God Diviner was, there was no way Yang Qi would have been able to survive until now. Xiling, there is one thing that I don't understand. Since you can't step into the spring of chaos, what's the use of me going? Could it be that Xiling thought that he could do something that others could not? It seemed a little ridiculous. Longao knew his limits when it came to entering the spring of primal chaos. It was almost impossible for him to step into the spring of primal chaos and devour the power within it. He did not even need to think about it. If that was the case, why did Xiling want him to go to the spring of chaos? It was something that he could not figure out. Chapter 2580. Longao knew that Xiling wouldn't harm him. Xiling definitely had her reasons for doing this. Longao, I didn't tell you to enter the primal chaos spring. I just told you to approach it and see if you can devour the energy outside. So that's how it was. Longao knew what Xiling meant. If he could devour the energy outside the primal chaos spring, it might not be a bad thing. But could he devour it? That might not be the case. The primal chaos spring was definitely a dangerous place. Otherwise, the ruler of the universe wouldn't dare enter. No matter what. With his constitution, if he didn't try, who knew when he would break through to the peak of the starry sky immortal realm? Xiling, I know what to do. Violet's spirit still had a helpless look on her face. Longao, you have to be careful in everything. The primal chaos source is listed as a forbidden area by the divine mathematician. If you are not careful and get locked by him, then the divine mathematician will definitely deal with you. Although the God Diviner and Yunlu had an agreement, if Longao took the initiative to provoke him, it would be a different matter. Once that happened, even Yunlu wouldn't be able to say anything. Regarding this point, Longao was still very clear. Since things were already like this, no matter how difficult or dangerous it was, he had to try. Longao didn't immediately leave. Instead, he stayed and had a good chat with the person who had devoured the primal chaos tablet. Up until now, no one had been able to successfully refine the primal chaos tablet and become the ruler of the universe. It was very depressing. Dozens of days later, Longao left the soaring dragon realm and rushed toward the primal chaos spring that Xiling had mentioned. However, Longao stopped abruptly when he was halfway there. The martial sky continent wasn't the only primal chaos spring. Previously, Xin Tong had taken him to a primal chaos spring. As for that spring, even the God Diviner didn't know about it. As for whether he knew about it now, it was still unknown. However, before entering the primal chaos spring, no one seemed to care about it. It was the same as not having it. Rather than taking the risk of entering the martial sky continent, it was better to try the primal chaos spring. Even if you beat the Oracle to death, he would never have thought that he would go to the origin of chaos and try to devour the power of the origin of chaos. Longao immediately changed his direction and headed towards the source of chaos. The source of chaos. The surroundings were extremely secluded. There was not a single plane. Under normal circumstances, no one would come here. The source of chaos was like a huge sphere. If there was no light radiating from it, no one would know that it was the source of chaos. Instead, others would think that it was a plane. Longao did not immediately try to devour the power around the spring of chaos. If he was unlucky and suffered a backlash, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. He observed for several days. Even so, Longao was still not confident. However, if this continued, it would be better for him to leave because it would be useless for him to stay here. He couldn't wait any longer. This was because the current situation was very disadvantageous to him. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. No one knew when the Oracle would calculate the location of the soaring dragon plane. The agreement between the Oracle and Yunlu was not to deal with him, but it didn't mean that the Oracle couldn't deal with the soaring dragon plane. He was less than a meter away from the source of chaos because this was the limit. As for whether he would suffer a backlash or not, he had to continue forward. He took a deep breath. Finally, Longao still took a step forward. As soon as half of his body stepped in, the surrounding power fluctuations began to attack wildly. It was like a sharp sword, mercilessly harvesting the intruder. If it was anyone else, they would have retreated long ago when faced with such a terrifying attack. Only Longao did not retreat. Instead, he continued to move forward. His entire body stepped in, allowing the surrounding power to attack. Longao forcefully endured. The reason why Longao dared to do so was because he had full confidence in his defense. Moreover, he had the protection of the 9-colored Chaos Lotus. This was the key point. Longao was almost certain that the power outside was not the so-called chaotic force. Otherwise, with his defense, he would not be able to withstand it. Apart from himself, he believed that the Starry Sky Ruler, Half-Step Starry Sky Ruler, and even the Peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm experts could do this. As for whether a Starry Sky Immortal Realm expert could do it, it was unknown. Would it be useful for him to devour this power? As Xiling said, even if it was the periphery of the source of chaos, the power was endless. As long as he didn't feel tired, he could devour as much as he wanted. But would it be useful? Longao did not hesitate and immediately began to devour. His physique was like a small bottle before, but now it had evolved into a big water tank. However, the power required had increased by tens of thousands of times or more. It was hard to imagine how much power he would need to break through to the Peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm. If he wanted to continue to break through, he would not be a small bottle or a water tank, but an endless sea. The more he thought about it, the more depressed he became. He did not know whether his physique was good or bad. Anyway, it was better than bad before, but now it was worse. However, physique was a fact that could not be changed. Since he had such a physique, he could only accept it. Longao's physique seemed to be a bottomless pit. It began to devour the surrounding power crazily. Gradually, Longao became like a whirlpool. Time passed quickly. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Under normal circumstances, with Longao's devouring speed, it should be possible for him to break through from Starry Sky Immortal Realm to Starry Sky Immortal Realm. But what was the result? After devouring for 3 months, Longao did not feel the slightest sign of a breakthrough. If he continued to devour at his current speed, he might not be able to break through in 3 years, or even 30,000 years, let alone 3 months. It was not that Longao did not devour enough power, or his devouring speed was not fast enough. The biggest reason was that the power outside the source of chaos was not strong enough. Therefore, no matter how much power Longao's physique devoured, it was useless. After devouring for 3 months, Longao certainly understood the reason behind it. It was useless to continue devouring, so why should he continue to devour? It was better to think of other ways. It was much better than staying here. 3 months later, Longao stopped devouring power and stood outside the source of chaos with a helpless face. Even Master God Diviner and the other rulers of the stars wouldn't be able to last even a second. We're in big trouble now. Encountering the current situation, Longao was depressed to the extreme. Now that he had entered the Chaos Hall, even though he had managed to avoid being killed by the power of chaos for the time being, it would still be difficult for him to leave the source of chaos. When they first entered, they did not encounter any attacks from the power of chaos. Now that he had entered, it wouldn't be easy for him to leave. If he couldn't leave in the shortest time possible, he would definitely be killed by the Chaos Palace. If he couldn't leave, didn't that mean he would have to stay here for the rest of his life? Perhaps there was only one way, and that was to refine the attribute-less Chaos Stone tablet in his body. When he became a ruler of the stars and mastered the power of chaos, he might be able to come and go freely in the source of chaos. But could he wait? He absolutely couldn't, because Longao knew very well that with Master God Diviner's calculation ability, once he calculated the location of the soaring dragon plane, no one would be able to resist Master God Diviner and the 9 half-step rulers of the stars before they became a ruler of the stars. At that time, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret. What should he do? The more he thought about it, the more solemn his expression became. Longao knew that it would be difficult for him to leave this place in a short time. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have come in, trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. The 9 half-step rulers of the stars certainly knew that Master God Diviner wouldn't let them off so easily in the future, but the 9 had already thought of a countermeasure. As long as they got what they wanted, they would immediately escape. Even Master God Diviner might not be able to do anything to them. This matter shouldn't be spread. The 9 half-step rulers secretly began to search for Longao's location and mobilized all the people they could. Even so, it wasn't an easy task to lock onto the location of the Soaring Dragon Empire. Master God Diviner and Yi Dugu didn't give up in the slightest. Master God Diviner clearly knew that it would be difficult for him to lock onto the location of the Soaring Dragon Empire, but he still calculated without hesitation. As for why he couldn't calculate, Master God Diviner's heart was as clear as a mirror. If he wasn't mistaken, the biggest reason why he couldn't calculate the location of the Soaring Dragon Empire was because of Longao. In any case, Longao and the Soaring Dragon Empire were inextricably linked and inseparable. For countless years, Master God Diviner regretted 2 things the most. The first thing was that he didn't take advantage of the original opportunity to destroy the 11 rulers of the stars in one fell swoop. From the beginning until now, he had counterattacked and slapped their faces. You could say that. In the vast starry sky for countless years, Longao was a miracle. Father, if we work together with the Peak Stage Dragon Tribe and the Peak Stage Human Tribe, even if we can kill Longao in the future, I'm afraid the 2 Peak Stage Dragon Tribe will stab us in the back. How could Zhou Jian not know Feng Er's concerns? Even if he knew, Zhou Jian wouldn't have cared. Otherwise, how could he have led a peak massacring race to join forces with 2 peak races to deal with Longao? Feng Er, I know what you're worried about. However, I also want to take advantage of this opportunity to establish a good relationship with the God Diviner. The God Diviner? He was very curious, wondering what his father meant. The God Diviner was a high and mighty starry sky ruler. How could he have anything to do with this matter? It was complete nonsense. However, Zhou Dian said, I received news that the God Diviner joined forces with 9 half-step starry sky rulers of the Peak Stage Human Tribe to deal with Longao. However, the final result was, Longao is dead? Seeing his father shake his head, Zhou Feng asked curiously again, could it be that Longao was forcibly sealed? Zhou Jian shook his head again and said helplessly, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's true. The God Diviner joined forces with 9 half-step starry sky rulers to deal with Longao, but in the end, Longao still managed to escape. Although I don't know the reason, the God Diviner definitely won't let this go. Zhou Feng was completely shocked when he heard his father's words. He knew very well what his father meant. Was this true? Although he knew his father wouldn't fool him, Zhou Feng still found it hard to believe. After all, this matter was too shocking. No one would choose to believe it, let alone himself. The God Diviner has already instructed the Peak Stage Human Tribe to do this. Although I don't know why the Peak Stage Dragon Tribe would do this, this is the only way we can gain the God Diviner's trust. Father, why do we have to get close to the God Diviner? He was very curious. He was doing well now. Why did he have to curry favor with the God Diviner? He couldn't figure it out. Zhou Feng really couldn't figure it out. Feng Er, I'll tell you about this matter later. Right now, we only have one main task. No matter what price we have to pay, we have to deal with Longao. Only then can we consider the God Diviner. Since his father had already said so, Zhou Feng couldn't say anything more. As for the peak stage dragon tribe, Yububi basically made the decision alone. Since the peak stage dragon tribe knew that he wasn't a peak starry sky immortal, but a half-step starry sky dominator, everyone trusted him. If Long Tu hadn't chosen to submit to Longao, it might have been a different concept. After all, Long Tu was the true ancestor of the peak stage dragon tribe, not Yububi. Unfortunately, this kind of thing depended on luck. Yububi was a lucky person. Because of this, Yububi wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to deal with Longao and Long Tu once and for all. Yububi knew very well that once they dealt with Longao, Long Tu would definitely take action. If he was alone, he would definitely not be able to kill Long Tuesday. However, with the help of Zhou Dian and the 9 half-step starry sky dominators of the peak stage human tribe, it would be more than enough to kill Long Tuesday. This was the real reason for Yububi's action. If it weren't for Long Tu, Yububi definitely wouldn't have taken the risk casually just to deal with Longao, let alone to form an alliance with the peak stage massacre tribe. This was completely nonsense. It could be said that, although the peak stage dragon tribe, the peak stage human tribe, and the peak stage massacre tribe had formed an alliance to deal with Longao, each of the peak stage races had their own ulterior motives. It was impossible for them to form an alliance wholeheartedly. Longao didn't know about the alliance of the 3 peak stage races at all. He was still trapped in the primal chaos spring. Fortunately, he had the protection of the primal chaos palace. Otherwise, Longao wouldn't know what would have happened to him. Chapter 2583. Inside the Primal Chaos Palace. Longao had tried more than 100 times and failed every time. Not once had he succeeded in leaving the Primal Chaos Spring. Until now, Longao still couldn't figure out why he hadn't suffered any attacks when he was hundreds of meters inside the Primal Chaos Spring. Instead, he couldn't leave. As long as he left the Primal Chaos Palace, he would be attacked by the surrounding Primal Chaos Force. He would only die if he tried to resist. This time, he came to the Primal Chaos Spring to successfully devour a huge amount of power and break through to the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. But the result was a little special. In order to devour power, he had to pay with his life. It wasn't worth the loss. What should he do? His face was very dignified and helpless. Although he knew it was impossible, Longao still didn't want to give up. If the first time didn't work, he would try twice. If the second time didn't work, he would try thrice. If the third time didn't work, he would try 4 times. In Longao's view, there would always be a chance to leave the Primal Chaos Spring. Outside the Primal Chaos Palace, Longao's half-body had just appeared when he was attacked by the surrounding Primal Chaos Force. He couldn't move. This time, Longao didn't choose to give up easily. If this continued, who knew when it would end? Longao wasn't worried about himself, but his family. If the Oracle and the 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers locked onto his family, the consequences would be unimaginable. He wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Holding the Primal Chaos Axe in his hand, the moment Longao hid in the Primal Chaos Palace, he took the opportunity to hack out. Longao didn't think that the power of his Primal Chaos Axe could create a space crack in the Primal Chaos Force space. But the result? At the same time as the Primal Chaos Axe was chopped out, a trace of space crack appeared. Although it was not as good as the space crack outside, it already showed that the power of the Primal Chaos Axe used by Longao had increased by several times. He was overjoyed. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, Longao could feel it. With the success of the first time, Longao didn't hesitate and immediately started the second time. Seeing the space crack around the Primal Chaos Force space, Longao rushed out with the help of the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus. His speed soared to the extreme, as fast as he could. In this place, Longao did not dare to casually use time teleportation. This was because if the time teleportation was killed by the chaotic power, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was obvious what the consequences would be. I won't take any chances. Every time Longao took a step, he would immediately enter the Primal Chaos Palace. Otherwise, even with the help of the spatial crack, he wouldn't be able to continue like this. 100 meters away. If it was in the outside world, it would be insignificant to Longao. But here, it was a completely different concept. The distance of 100 meters was like the distance between heaven and earth. Every millimeter was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After several hours, Longao realized that he had only walked 1/3 of a meter. What kind of concept was that? At this speed, who knew how long it would take to cover the distance of 100 meters? Fortunately, he already had a solution. If he didn't have a solution and couldn't move an inch, that would be called despair. While leaving the Spring of Chaos, Longao did not choose to give up. Since he was already here, if he didn't continue to try, he wouldn't be satisfied. The Primal Chaos Seal could no longer be used. After all, the Primal Chaos Seal had transformed into the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus and was fused with him. After fusing with the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, even he couldn't control it. Hence, it was basically impossible to rely on the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus. He had already tried using the Primal Chaos Axe, but it couldn't devour the chaotic force. Thinking about it, in the end, Longao was prepared to use the attributeless Primal Chaos Stone Tablet to see if it could successfully devour the chaotic force. No matter what, the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet was the source of the chaotic force. Only by devouring and refining the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet could one control the chaotic force. Otherwise, everything was nonsense. It was impossible to bypass the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and directly control the chaotic force. In the end, he still got nothing. Of course, Longao knew the reason. If he wasn't wrong, the reason why the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet couldn't devour the chaotic force was because he didn't refine the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet. Otherwise, it would be a different concept. Time passed by bit. After about half a year, Longao finally left the Primal Chaos Spring by relying on the space crack. Even so, Longao still didn't leave the Primal Chaos Spring. Still, he was a little unwilling. After all, with his current physique, no matter where he went, he would be a problem. Breaking through from the Starry Sky Immortal Realm to the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm seemed to be a hurdle for him, because even now, he didn't know how much chaotic force he would need to devour to break through. He wasn't sure. After thinking about it, he seemed to have no choice but to stay here. If he could devour the chaotic force, then not only could he rapidly increase his strength, he could even refine the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and become a Starry Sky ruler. It was killing two birds with one stone. Staring at the Primal Chaos Spring in front of him, Longao didn't know what he should do. If it were anyone else, since they had already left the Primal Chaos Spring, they definitely wouldn't continue to enter. Not to mention ordinary Starry Sky cultivators, even Starry Sky rulers, including the Divine Mathematician, wouldn't dare to casually step into the Primal Chaos Spring. Otherwise, the Divine Mathematician wouldn't have let the 11 Starry Sky rulers go. The Primal Chaos Spring was probably the #1 forbidden land in the Starry Sky. No one else knew about it. The first was the Martial Heaven continent, which had been discovered by the god Diviner. Through his calculations, the 11 Primal Chaos sovereigns had almost been killed. The second was this place. Xin Tong had discovered that it was almost identical to the Martial Heaven continent's Primal Chaos origin. It was even possible that it was the same place with two entrances. However, no one had ever entered or studied it. No one knew what was going on. One thing was certain. Whether it was the Martial Heaven continent's Primal Chaos Spring or this Primal Chaos Spring, neither was simple. For example, the Primal Chaos Giant Pong. Although he had formed an alliance with the Primal Chaos Giant Pong, since the Primal Chaos Giant Pong hadn't said anything, as a friend, he wouldn't ask. Longao didn't leave. Instead, he prepared to enter the Primal Chaos Spring a second time. In any case, he had the Primal Chaos Palace, the Shattered Starry Sky, and the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus protecting him. Chapter 2584. Without the Chaos 9-colored lotus, Longao wouldn't have dared to step into the Spring of Chaos so casually. An immortal body could disregard everything. As long as he wasn't suppressed by the Spring of Chaos, everything would be fine. He took a step forward. Long Ao disappeared in an instant and stepped directly into the primal chaos spring. This time, Long Ao directly used the Chaos Palace. Needless to say, the Chaos Palace was powerful. If he could use the Chaos Palace to devour the surrounding chaotic energy, it wouldn't be a bad thing. He took a deep breath. As soon as he stepped in, Long Ao directly entered the Chaos Palace. He didn't fight it head-on because the current situation wasn't good for him. There was no need to take the risk. Even if the Chaos Nine-Colored Lotus could make him immortal, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be suppressed by the chaos. If that really happened, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Until now, Long Ao hadn't really controlled the Chaos Palace. But even so, he could still control the Chaos Palace. Would he succeed? Long Ao didn't know because he didn't understand the Chaos Palace at all. This time, he stepped into the spring of chaos with an attitude of trying to see if he could succeed. Long Ao was overjoyed when he felt the surrounding chaotic energy gushing into the primal Chaos Palace. He was pleasantly surprised. He knew very well what it meant for the Chaos Palace to be able to devour chaotic energy. In the beginning, Ao Long had to guide the Chaos Palace to devour the power of chaos with all his might. However, after a few dozen minutes, Ao Long no longer needed to guide the Chaos Palace. The Chaos Palace operated on its own and began to devour the power of chaos around it. He stood quietly within the primal Chaos Palace as he watched the primal chaos power being devoured. It entered the primal Chaos Palace in a very strange way before forming a huge black sphere. The black sphere was the chaotic energy outside. When it gathered to a certain extent, the black sphere stopped expanding. Although it stopped, the speed of devouring was getting faster and faster. The black sphere was like a bottomless pit. Not only did it devour faster and faster, it didn't even change in size. Long Ao didn't dare to take a step forward because he could clearly feel that the black sphere was too terrifying. Even if it was him, he would be suppressed instantly if he got close to the black sphere. If he was suppressed by the black sphere in the Chaos Palace, he would become a joke. He waited quietly. Long Ao didn't try to swallow the power of chaos. No matter what, he hadn't refined the attributeless Chaos Stone Tablet yet. Otherwise, the results would be completely different. As for good or bad, Long Ao was almost certain that the more Primal Chaos Palace devoured, the better it would be for the Primal Chaos Palace. As for what the benefits were, no one knew. In the current situation, they could only wait. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. He had been devouring for 3 whole years. 3 years was nothing to Long Ao, but it wasn't a good thing for the Empire. I wonder if the Empire has been locked onto. Long Ao was extremely worried in his heart. However, the Chaos Hall was still devouring the surrounding chaotic energy continuously. Even though its speed had decreased slightly, it was still pretty much the same. If this continued, who knew when it would end? It was very depressing. If he had known this would happen, he would not have borrowed the Primal Chaos Palace to devour the Primal Chaos energy. Now, he was trapped here, unable to move. Without the protection of the Primal Chaos Palace, wanting to leave the source of Primal Chaos was simply a pipe dream. Force it? Long Ao had already thought it through. If the Chaos Hall was still devouring the Primal Chaos energy, then even if it was dangerous, he would forcefully stop the devouring. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for the Empire. Hence, he had to return as soon as possible to be at ease. It continued to devour. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another year had passed. Long Ao had completely realized that if he allowed the Chaos Hall to continue devouring the Primal Chaos energy, not to mention 1 or 3 years, even 3 to 5,000 years might not be enough. Rather than waiting for such a long time, he might as well settle it now. As for the Chaos Hall devouring the Primal Chaos energy, since it had succeeded this time, it meant that he could casually step into the source of Primal Chaos and borrow the Chaos Hall to devour the Primal Chaos energy. Long Ao did not personally take action because no one knew if the Black Sphere would backfire on him. It was better to be safe than sorry. Of course, Long Ao would not casually take this risk. Instead, he held the Chaos Axe and slashed at the Black Sphere. Not only that, he tried to control the Chaos Hall to see if he could forcefully stop the devouring. There was a loud boom. It was true that what one feared would happen. Just as Longao was about to increase his strength, and before he could even react, the situation suddenly changed. His entire body was covered by the black sphere. Startled, Longao screamed in his heart. He was not worried that he would die. After all, he had fused with the Chaos Nine-colored lotus and was immortal. Even the primal chaos energy could not do that. However, not dying did not mean that he was not simple. Longao knew very well that once he was sealed by the black sphere, the consequences would be unimaginable. After all, his current situation was very unfavorable, and he could not afford to waste any time. Their surroundings were pitch black, and they didn't suffer any attacks. It was like a black space. From the outside, the black sphere didn't look too big. However, after entering the black sphere, the entire space became very big. It was like a plane of existence. Longao was very curious. He walked slowly, step by step, and tried to release the power of his soul to see if it could cover this black sphere space. However, the final result made him very disappointed, because as long as he released the power of his soul, it would be blocked. It couldn't even reach a range of tens of meters. What was going on? Longao was very curious because he could almost be sure that this was a space formed by the fusion of the primal chaos energy. As for why it was not attacked, he did not know. The surrounding space was almost exactly the same. There was no difference. Longao didn't want to stay any longer. Instead, he began to prepare to leave this place. He couldn't stay here forever. His spirit could not go beyond tens of meters. It was too difficult to find the exit. Even so, Longao had no choice. He had already wasted a lot of time, and he could not afford to waste any more time. Longao tried to use time teleportation, but found that it was impossible. He could only try to use his fastest speed to see if he could find the exit in the shortest amount of time. However, it was still that sentence. It was easy to think about it, but it was very difficult to actually do it. Chapter 2585. Pissed, pissed, pust, 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 pust. Right at this moment, suddenly, a hissing sound came from all around. It wasn't ear-piercing, but it definitely wasn't pleasant to hear. Instantly stopping, Longao looked around curiously. He didn't know what was going on with the sound that suddenly came over. There was no movement. There wasn't the slightest difference. Longao became more and more curious. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't dare to act rashly because he didn't know what was going on around him. If he suffered a backlash, who knew what would happen? It was already not easy to find the exit. If they encountered an accident, it would be even more difficult. If it were any other time, Longao wouldn't have cared. But now, the situation was completely different. It was better to be safe than sorry. No one knew what was going on with this black sphere. If they took a wrong step, the consequences would be unimaginable. Pissed, 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 pissed. The sizzling sound was getting closer and closer, as if it was right in front of him. Longao had just taken a few steps when he stopped again. His expression became more and more serious.
How strange.
Longao could not sense any aura of the power of primal chaos in his surroundings. Basically, there was no flow of aura at all. As for sound, as long as he stopped, the sizzling sound would immediately stop. Once he moved, the sizzling sound would return to normal. It was too strange. Zhang Xian took a step forward, and just as he had expected, there was a hissing sound all around him, as if it was right beside his ears. Chaos Axe. Just as Longao was wondering what was going on around him, the situation suddenly changed. The Primal Chaos Axe, which was originally in the Primal Chaos Palace, suddenly appeared in front of him and floated quietly. Without waiting for Longao to react, a sizzling sound appeared from all around. Suddenly, it quickly rushed towards this side. Not long after, countless black air currents emerged. It turned out to be the sizzling sound of the black airflow. Could it be because of the Chaos Axe? Longao was very clear in his heart that the Primal Chaos Axe could not appear here casually. Moreover, He even asserted that the Starry Sky Divine tool he obtained was definitely not simple. Especially when combined with the Primal Chaos 9 axes, it was simply incomparable. Just the first move, Hell's Devour, had already given him a pleasant surprise. Not to mention, there were still 8 moves to follow. The more he thought about it, the more he looked forward to it. Longao did not act rashly. This was because the heaven-defying Starry Sky God weapon had its own spirituality. Take Bai Ling and Xiling, for example. Both of them were originally sword bodies. After countless years of cultivation, they finally became Jianling. Countless black air currents gushed out from all directions and headed straight for the chaotic axe without any hesitation. He was shocked. Even though he knew, Longao couldn't help but be shocked. Countless streams of black air began to surge into the chaos axe. Because it was moving too fast, the chi-chi sound became louder and louder. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens. The black airflow has formed a pattern on the chaos axe. As the black airflow gathered faster and faster, it gradually formed a pattern on the surface of the chaos axe. However, it was still impossible to tell what the pattern was. What kind of pattern was it? About 10 minutes later, Longao began to recognize the pattern formed by the black airflow on the chaos axe. If it was before, he wouldn't have recognized it. However, it was all too familiar to him now. The pattern on the chaos axe was none other than the 9-colored lotus. The 9-colored lotus pattern was almost exactly the same as the chaotic 9-colored lotus that was formed by the chaos seal. Longao was very curious. He didn't know what was going on. After the 9-colored lotus was formed, the surrounding black airflow stopped gushing in and the chaos axe returned to Longao's hands. Longao gently stroked the chaos axe in his hand, especially the 9-colored lotus pattern on the chaos axe. Until now, he still didn't know what was going on. He was very curious. He shrugged helplessly. Once Longao's hand touched the 9-colored lotus pattern on the chaos axe, he felt a blood connection. Vaguely, there seemed to be a very strange feeling. Longao's intuition told him. The 9-colored lotus that was just formed on the chaos axe must be related to the 9-colored lotus that he merged with. As for what kind of connection it was, he didn't know. Longao gently closed his eyes. The surrounding black airflow with countless chi all gushed into the chaos axe. In just a few seconds, the chaos axe devoured the entire black sphere. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked at the chaos palace. Longao wasn't surprised because he already knew that this would be the result from the moment he held the chaos axe. Hence, he wasn't worried at all. All the chaos energy that was devoured by the chaos axe. As for him, he still got nothing. He felt very helpless. Even if he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do because Longao found a problem. The chaos energy that was devoured by the chaos axe had nothing to do with him. In desperation, Longao could only choose to leave. It took him a long time to leave the chaos spring. This time, Longao didn't continue to stay because it was impossible to rely on the chaos spring to break through the limit of the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. Instead of that, he might as well think of other ways to help his cultivation to break through smoothly. After returning to the Soaring Dragon Empire, Longao was relieved to find that his family was fine. In the past few years, he was most worried about his family. The empire was his bottom line. After spending some time with his grandfather, parents, and wife, Longao put his mind on the vast starry sky. Longao was very surprised that the 9 great starry sky empires of the Dragon Clan, Massacre Clan, and Human Clan had joined forces. He never thought that the Dragon Clan and Human Clan would join forces against the Massacre Clan. It was crazy. Immediately finding Longao went straight to the point and said, "Big brother, regarding the matter of the vast starry sky, I believe you already know that the 3 pinnacle races have joined hands, and if we still sit and wait for death, then there will be a lot of trouble." As the emperor of the Soaring Dragon Empire, Longing went out from time to time. Of course, he knew about the 3 great clans joining forces. Everyone in the vast starry sky knew that the 3 great clans joined forces to deal with Longao. This was also what Longing was worried about. "Seventh brother, the current situation is very unfavorable for us. In your opinion, what should we do now? Even Longing didn't know what to do for a while. After all, the three great clans were too powerful. Unless the Starry Sky Dominator came, no one could be their opponent. P.S. The 9th chapter has been delivered. The remaining chapter will be delivered later. Chapter 2586. He was very afraid. Longing looked worried. After all, he knew better than anyone what it meant for the three pinnacle races to join hands. Even if his seventh brother was extremely talented and powerful, he would never believe that his seventh brother could fight against the three peak races alone, even if he was beaten to death. His seventh brother was only a Starry Sky Immortal, not even a peak Starry Sky Immortal. Adding up the pinnacle dragon race, the pinnacle slaughterer race, and the pinnacle human race, there were 11 half-step Starry Sky Dominators. What did that mean? Big brother, I believe you know what the pinnacle slaughterer race means. Now that the pinnacle dragon race and the pinnacle human race have joined hands, it's a mistake in itself. What did that mean? Longing was very curious about his seventh brother's meaning. Of course, Longing knew the history of the pinnacle slaughterer race. In the past, the pinnacle slaughterer race would not have dared to rise again. After waiting for so many years and feeling that no one in the universe was against them, the pinnacle slaughterer race dared to appear and rise again. Even so, what could they do? Seventh brother, what do you mean? Longing smiled. Big brother, the pinnacle slaughterer race is the biggest taboo in the universe. Let's beat them at their own game and spread the news about the past of the pinnacle slaughterer race. In an instant, Longing understood the meaning of Longao's words. I'll do it now. Not daring to be careless, Longing immediately left and arranged for people to do it. In just a few hours, the news about the three pinnacle races had spread throughout the universe, especially the pinnacle slaughterer race. They deliberately exaggerated as much as possible. Originally, many people did not have a good impression of the pinnacle slaughterer race. Because of this, everyone hated them even more. The pinnacle slaughterer race had killed countless people from the four major races. Although many years had passed, the hatred could not be forgotten. If it were not for the strength of the pinnacle slaughterer race, someone would have taken revenge long ago. Longao did not think that others could help him deal with the pinnacle slaughterer race. No matter what. As one of the 6 pinnacle races, the pinnacle slaughterer race was strong and had a half-step Starry Sky Dominator. Unless the other top clans made a move, no one would be able to shake the position of the top slaughter clan. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted everyone in the vast starry sky to know how shameless the peak-level dragons and peak-level humans were. Would he care? Whether it was the peak human race or the peak dragon race, he did not care at all. If it were any other matter, the two pinnacle races would definitely not join hands to attack the pinnacle slaughterer clan. This was without a doubt. Except for Longao. Even Master God Diviner was unable to kill Longao. The 9 of them were completely helpless. As for Ububi, it was not only for the sake of Longao, but also for the sake of the Dragon Slayer. If they wanted to kill the 2 of them, it was basically impossible with their strength alone. They could only join forces with the other 2 pinnacle races. He ignored everyone's dissatisfaction and curses. Soaring Dragon Realm. Inside the Grand Hall. Seventh brother, according to your instructions, I've already spread the news throughout the vast starry sky. However, the peak humans and the peak dragons don't care at all. Longing knew very well what his seventh brother meant. However, he did not expect that neither the peak human race nor the peak dragon race would care about this matter. If that was the case, then no one would be able to deal with the 3 pinnacle races. Big brother, we're fine for the time being. In the vast starry sky, not to mention others, even Master God Diviner would find it difficult to lock onto our position in a short period of time. Longao was still very confident about this. This was because, under normal circumstances, if Master God Diviner could lock onto the Empire's position, then he would not have been helpless for so many years. However, Longao did not tell his big brother about his worries because he knew very well that even if Master God Diviner could not lock onto the Empire's position now, it did not mean that he would not be able to do so in the future. If he was unlucky and the empire was locked onto by Master God Diviner, then things would be troublesome. Even if Master God Diviner did not personally take action, others would not have the slightest chance. How could Longing not know what his seventh brother was implying? However, since Longao did not say anything, he did not continue to ask. Seventh brother, what are we going to do next? Let me think about it. The current situation was very unfavorable for him. The longer he delayed, the more unfavorable it would be for him and the empire. Therefore, he had to think of a way to deal with this matter. No matter what happened, he could not let anything happen to the empire. However, none of those who had swallowed the Chaos Tablets had been able to successfully refine them and become a Starry Sky Dominator. If someone in the empire could become a Starry Sky Dominator, even if it was only one person, then the empire and he would not be so passive. If that was really the case, then the situation would be completely reversed. He felt helpless because refining a Primal Chaos Tablet was not an easy task. The person who had obtained the 12 Primal Chaos Tablets had spent countless years refining them. One could imagine how difficult it was to refine a Primal Chaos Tablet. Sitting alone in the main hall, Longao's expression was very dignified. 3 days later, Longao could not sit still anymore. After leaving the Soaring Dragon Realm, he went to the number 1 Starry Sky Empire of the human race. He wanted to see if the 3 pinnacle races were like an iron plate. Longao did not show himself because the situation was completely different now. Once the 3 pinnacle races found out about him, they would definitely go all out to deal with him. If he did not show up, then he might find an opportunity. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted to think of a way to make the 3 pinnacle races kill each other. In this way, he could watch the fire from the other side of the river and reap the benefits from it. This matter was very simple to think about, but it was very difficult to do because the 3 pinnacle races were not fools. They had a common goal. Unless he had fallen, it was very difficult for the 3 pinnacle races to have internal strife. Soon, Longao had silently entered the first realm. However, he did not make a move this time. Again, the main purpose of this trip was to observe the situation and see if there was any way to deal with the 3 pinnacle races. As for the grudge between him and the number 1 Starry Sky Empire, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. There was no need to rush and expose his identity. It was not worth it. Longao hid his aura. As long as he did not expose his identity, it would be very difficult for anyone to find him. P.S. I'm really sorry. I originally finished writing at 11:30, but there was no internet. Little 9 waited until now. I'll upload before going to sleep. Good night, everyone. All 10 chapters have been delivered. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.